Hey. Here we go. Woohoo!
Step inside the Smashbox with Johnny V and Terry Miller, the disc golf guy.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to SmashBoxxTV's podcast number 157. I'm your host, Terry Miller, the disc golf guy, along with Johnny V, and back in our glorious Milwaukee studio.
It's where we're most comfortable.
Yeah, that's one way to say it.
We don't, it's everything's set up. We're not struggling to run and do things. I just feel, we know what we got here.
Yeah, we do. Well, we are back from the Idlewild Open, of course, the 7th stop on the Disc Golf Pro Tour, and it's exciting to be here. And we've got a heck of a stretch coming up in the next 4 to 5 weeks as well. Lots of action.
Yeah. There's we have Pittsburgh Flying Disc, Vibram, Nantucket, Green Mountain Championship, USDGC, U.S. Women's. We have a stretch of exciting golf to finish off the main portion of our disc golf season.
And then shortly after that, of course, we're going to be moving over to the Disc Golf Pro Tour Championships will be taking place down in Florida. Also, right around that time, the Hall of Fame Classic, which wraps up the PDGA National Tour. So there is a ton of really high-level golf that remains here in the next month and a half or two. Also, the Next Generation Tour, we've talked to them a few times, how they're wrapping things up in November out in Arizona. So that'll be taking place. So some people are thinking, oh, the season's starting to wind down. It's really not. This is just one more leg, another stretch that everyone's going to have to battle through. And I'm excited that I'm going to be at most of those, almost every event you just mentioned, I'll actually be at, and a number of those will be live for. And then, of course, the weekly podcast. So plenty to do here in 2017.
For sure.
Hopefully everything's working well for everybody. We see a bunch of Smashies logging in. Of course, you can do so live as we're pushing out to both YouTube and Facebook. As always, if you want to interact with our live chat, the easiest way to do that is on the right side. If you're watching us on a YouTube page, usually on some kind of a desktop or laptop version works best. If you follow along, that's where you see plenty of interaction taking place. If you want something to be said or read or heard or stand out, you can click on a little super chat feature, and it's all but guaranteed that we'll see it. And of course, later on in the after show, we'll be giving away some free swag, some free stuff to our Patreon supporters, where we randomly grab one of our supporters and give away some things. I've got an item, a towel. Maybe it looks like a little custom towel, along with a disc here tonight that will be given away.
And if you want to be part of that, you can go to Patreon, patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV. That's 2 X's, as you all know. And just donate any amount. Just become a patron for any dollar amount, and you'll be entered into our weekly giveaway that we do in the after show.
So tonight, looks like we're going to have Dana Vicich. He'll be joining us, giving us some insights. Dana usually gives us some recaps and stats and details found at tournaments from around the country. Then usually he'll throw out a really interesting question or two that will really make us think as we all ponder that. Shortly after we have Dana tonight, then we'll also have Paul Ulibarri, who's been more frequent with us for the last few weeks, and he's been performing well. So I don't know if
there's no coincidence there,
an obvious tie or not, but we'll be excited to have Paul Ulibarri. Some may ask, what about a guest or a featured guest after such a big weekend? Some of the rationale that I don't want to say just came up with, but some of the rationale out there, we learned a few weeks ago, James Conrad is not one. James lives life. He doesn't have time to sit around on things like the internets. And James is out there living life. After he had won Des Moines, we kind of reached out, and that wasn't really a good setup for him to join us. Also, over on the at the Pro Masters sides, I think about Barry Schultz, who is not much of an internet kind of guy as well when it comes to doing Skype and things of that nature. Oh, all right. Sorry, 1 second. I was hearing myself twice. There's nothing worse than that. And then Elaine King, who won on the women's Pro Master side. She'd be for an obvious guest as well, but via the Facebooks, I saw she was traveling today. So a lot of our all too obvious choices for guests seem to have lots of things going on. And I think Paige Pierce is also traveling. She won on the women's side this weekend. So, all right. I think without further ado, if Johnny's got it all under control, I think we can have none other than Dana Vicich join us.
Boom goes the dynamite.
Oh, yeah.
Large, in charge, crystal clear, no stuttering. That's him being, that's a smooth nod he's got there.
We love it, Dynamite. How you doing, buddy?
That's what I'm talking about, boys. Got that good internet. I'm ready to talk some disc golf with you and my smashies.
Awesome. Tired of crap. We got to shout him out right away. He's logged onto the board. Already gave us a super chat. Thank you so much. He says, hey, guys, James Conrad for the win. And James Conrad, I've been to 2 events in the last 3 or 4 weeks, and he's come out on top. So congrats to James Conrad for sure.
I thought you were going to take credit for that, like you took credit for Ulibarri shooting good.
Nope.
He's been on Smashbox for the past 3-4 weeks, whatever.
I'm not going to take credit just yet, but if he keeps shooting well, and we're always there, I'm just saying.
Some people perform better when the camera's on them. Some people don't. And looks like James is one of those guys that the camera doesn't really bother him.
Long hair, don't care. What we have noticed, Dana, is we didn't see you on camera this weekend because you didn't get there. No. Why not, buddy?
My daughter Edith came down with the croup. She had a little fever. She had this thing called the croup, which is, I don't know, something with your throat, and it basically sounds like a dog coughing. Literally, you're like, sounded like my child was barking like a dog. But anyways, with Ashley, it being her first week of school, I couldn't leave her with a sick kid and trying to find people to watch Edith and everything. So I held on till the very last moment before eventually saying, no, I'm not going to go. Edith's too sick, and I can't leave my pregnant wife at home during her first week of school. So I had to drop out. Really bummed. I've been looking forward to getting to Idlewild for a long time. I need the Pro Tour points. Right now I'm in the top 50, so I was hoping to move up a little bit more, or at least hold my place. I'm signed up for the next 2 events, so need to get some points then to stay inside that top 50, get myself another Disc Golf Pro Tour trading card, get an invite to Jacksonville, to the finals. But, you know, what can you do? I stayed home. I played a tournament on Saturday, shot one of the worst rated rounds I've shot in so long. So that kind of sucked. But what didn't suck was DG Mike Fierke. He came out, he shot some of the best disc golf of his life, his highest rated round ever, first round, followed it up with another 1,000 rated round, second round. He won his first PDGA tournament.
Hey, yo.
I'm after playing with him last weekend where we both played poorly. It was very nice to see him shoot good and see him get the win. So shout out to old DG Mike. I don't think he's a big hot shot in Chicago now. Too busy for us on Smashbox. But I'll give him the shout out anyways.
Yeah, he cleaned himself up pretty good, because a couple years ago when we met him, or we were hanging out with him a little bit, he was kind of a shaggy dude with the big beard and the whatever. He moves to Chicago, gets a nice slick haircut, takes off. You know, he's too good for us now.
One of them city slickers.
That's right.
More like city hipster. But,
well, that too.
Well, we all know the campaign. I think it's still running. Swipe right for DG Mike, and. We'll get into his love life maybe in the after show, but maybe we won't. Well, congrats to him. Very cool to see, and we always love seeing him whenever he's out. Why isn't he on the tour at all? Is he just too cool in Chicago these days?
No, he's. I think he's been at his new position for a year or so, and you know, just working a lot and he might be able to get a little more mobile moving forward, and where he can get out to some events. He will be at Green Mountain Challenge, so everyone that wants an autograph or maybe, you know, 3 ladies out there, if you want to swipe right, he's going to be there. Plan for it. But yeah, hopefully we can get him out to some more tournaments next year, because it's always fun traveling with Mike, and he likes to have a good time.
Okay, well, it would be good to check in with him. So SD Disker had a really great point or comment here on the board. He had said, how about we run down the people who weren't at Idlewild? And sometimes I think that can be as noteworthy. I feel like that clearly had nothing to do with this event specifically, or what it was living up to be, and what it then became and was and will continue to be. But there's a few notables that weren't on that list, and what, Sexton, Wysocki,
Eagle,
McMahon, those are definitely the
Simon,
and Simon.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a pretty substantial list.
Yeah, and you know, the biggest shocker is obviously Ricky dropping out. You know, in the week leading up to the event, but Ricky's been all over the world this year, playing and winning disc golf tournaments, and he's kind of he's in a little bit of a post-Worlds slump, so took the weekend off to relax. I think he went to, who did he go? He went and saw a Kendrick Lamar concert, I think, in Kansas City. He was hanging out at Pete Cashin's, as a lot of the touring pros do when they're in Kansas City. But swimming and hanging out, saw some music. Now he, I think, stopped back home in Ohio, or his old home in Ohio, to see friends, and he's played quite a bit at Moraine, which is where the tour is at next weekend, Pittsburgh Flying Disc Open. So he'll be back there. It's a national tour. You know, I'm sure for the fans, a lot of people was hoping that Ricky was going to be at the Idlewild, just like, you know, a lot of people were hoping Macbeth was going to be at some of these earlier events, because it's, you know, you have in these areas, you have one big event come to town, and you want all the best players in the world to be there, and you want to see them, you know, have a battle and shoot hot on your home course, or struggle on your home course, and see what they do. But yeah, it's just been it's a long year playing this. It's not as easy as some people might think, you know, traveling around playing disc golf. It takes a toll, and glad Rick was able to step back and say, I need a weekend off, because it's all too easy to continue to keep playing and, you know, get a paycheck, because he would finish in the top
5.
10.
Yeah,
top 5 most likely, top 10. You know, get himself a relatively decent payday, and to take that off, you know, it can be hard. But shout out to Rick for knowing when he needs a break, and we'll see if he can come back strong, because I was going to talk about it a little later, but we'll talk about a little later about Pittsburgh and all the storylines leading up to that. But there's some exciting stuff coming to the tour, or coming back to the tour, I should say.
Well, what I was going to say regarding Ricky is what may have played some role in his decision is that he's got a really good position there on the Disc Golf Pro Tour. He's sitting in first, and knowing that you're able to drop, is it 1 or 2 events? I think 2 maybe. But knowing that you're able to drop a few off, he's going to for sure find himself at this rate, you know, in the final 8, getting a little bit of a bye, and just being in that position already, knowing that he doesn't have to be at every single event and grind it out on every single one. And this very long stretch that we referenced at the top of the show, that there's a lot of golf to play that's all very high level on very challenging courses in the next few weeks. And as much as everyone was a little disappointed to see how he would take on this course at Idlewild, again, very smart decision on his part to just stand down and get geared up. So now hopefully he doesn't lose all his discs over at Moraine. I saw him make more than one post about how he's left a couple of them out on the course. I think maybe just from throwing too many shots, not necessarily errant shots, but throwing too many. So hopefully he's got his bag ready to go.
You'll find me have almost zero sympathy when the pros tell me they lose some plastic. It's probably because they've thrown it too far. They've hit something and it's gone way too far in the wrong direction and they can't find it.
It turned over at 450 and I just never saw it come back.
Oh, bummer. I know. So and usually they're getting a handful from their sponsors, those top guys. So I feel almost zero sympathy when I hear those.
They still have their favorites though.
Of course they do. Well, they're not. They're probably not losing their favorites.
So one of the bonuses though for someone like Rick skipping out on an event like this is that it offers a time for some other players to shine. Mm-hmm. Although we had a lot of the familiar names up at the top, but Nate Perkins, he's been on tour all year. He hit the 1,000 rated mark earlier this year, continues to climb. He's been on tour this year. We've had some other new names out there like James Conrad. Chris Dickerson's been making a name for himself. Eric Oakley, Zach Melton, Peter McBride, AJ Risley, Colton Montgomery. There's a great group of disc golfers and people out there touring, and it gives these guys an opportunity to step in and maybe get some of that spotlight that Rick not being there and inevitably taking up one of those top spots on the lead card or on Smashbox. It lets it helps foster growth and gets new players out there in front of the masses.
Yeah, we definitely saw that. Our first round we had kind of a standard card, but the second round we saw Andrew Presnell. Mm-hmm. There was
Nate Perkins,
Chris Dickerson, and
Paul. Not Paul McBeth.
No,
who do we have on their second round.
I'm trying to think of who.
MJ?
Was it? It might have been MJ. No, I thought
no. MJ was first round.
Yeah.
There were 2 5s and 2 4s. There were 2 5s.
Was it Gibson? It was Gibson.
Drew Gibson.
Oh yeah, Drew.
Yeah. So these are guys that you don't normally. If there's a vote, you're almost never seeing them up at the top like we've seen for a lot of first rounds. So getting some fresh blood on one hand is really awesome to see. On the other hand, it didn't necessarily treat some of them as well as I think they would have liked. The spotlight gets kind of hot when you're up there. So I did see a lot of comments on like, oh, it's really nice to see Andrew up there. It's really nice to see Gibson because I want to see Gibson go on this course. And it didn't matter the player. The course wasn't being gotten by almost anybody. That's a tough course.
Yeah, insanely tough.
And another comment that's come in on the board, which we could talk about all day long, is just the fact that we also saw scores that reflected the challenge, and we can argue all day long as to what par should be on any given hole or just overall at a course. We're used to seeing those 8s and 9s and 10s and 12s kind of be hot rounds. Somebody busts out a 15 under par on any given course, and we're like, wow, look at all these, 45 under par for the weekend or 35 under par. And then to see what we saw, just barely cresting double digits,
mm-hmm.
Your 12 or your 13 or your 15 or whatever under par was also really interesting to see as well. And there was a question out there, I forget who posed it on the Facebook. Someone said, are we not taken seriously because of where we are under par on any given weekend? I think Dave Felberg was nearly 100 under par when he won Worlds in 2009. No, whatever year that was. 2008.
Eight, yeah.
And I just remember looking at that scoreboard, and it literally said 99 or something at one point under par. I'm just going to go ahead and say I don't think that means anything. If somebody came, if a PGA event, all of a sudden there was a new trend and they switched up pars, and I saw scores way under par, 40 under par for a weekend. Unless you're really in the game, and at that point we've already got you hooked, hopefully. Unless you're really in the game, I don't know if you need to care. That's my take. It was a heated battle, but real quick, Matthew Q, also a super chatter for $5. Thanks, Matthew. We appreciate it. Dana, do you care about the pars? I mean, is this refreshing? Do you think it matters about the image of our sport? Does it have any impact on potential viewers or viewership?
No, not necessarily. I don't think it's a big issue. In regards to par at Idlewild, that there was some chatter amongst some of the Disc Golf Pro Tour players that par was wrong on X amount of holes, that it should have been a few more, and maybe, maybe, I don't know, what was it, hole 2 or 3 should have been a par 3, but a few of them should, like 17 should have been a par 4 and whatever. But it's, at the end of the day, it's fewest throws. And it, aside from, putting that to the side, it's just, for those players taking, 4s or 3s, it's about pride, kind of about pride. I don't bogey. A lot of these players don't bogey a whole lot. And then to come to a course like this, that's really hard, gold level challenge for the most part. It was kind of a kick to the old ego.
Yeah, and I understand that. And Luke on the board, who I know, is definitely thinks about things a little bigger picture. He had said, don't you think that the par number can be a mental battle for players? And that feeds exactly into what you're saying, is there's just kind of this idea, well, somebody drops in a 4 and they're like, well, wait, what was the par on this hole? It's like, you either played the hole well or you didn't, regardless of what that score is.
If it's par 4 or par 5,
sometimes you want to know, I suppose.
But that person that's shooting for a par 4, mentally, if they're halfway down the fairway for a 2, and they're thinking, oh, God, it's a par 4 here, I need to get under the basket, I might need to press, as opposed to pitching up and pitching up, it could play some mental games with them, and it could cause them to lose strokes or gain strokes if their aggressiveness is rewarded.
Now, do you guys think, this is taking it back a little bit, Philo's Albatross, that the hole that he got a 2 on, it's, in my opinion, it's a par 4. But do you think it would have had that, it's obviously great footage and the camera angles, and do you think it would have been as big if it wasn't called an Albatross, if it was just an eagle?
Absolutely not. Even though like phenomenal video and the shot, it was just it was incredible all around. But yeah, but it doesn't have the same ring as an Albatross does. If you put out there amazing birdie or phenomenal birdie,
or eagle
eagle, yeah, it still doesn't have that. It doesn't have that ring. I mean, it's unfortunate because it was a great shot. I mean, as we call it, it's a fairway ace. I mean, it's just, it doesn't have that same ring, and it would not have been as big of a shot. So, but whatever.
That's kind of slightly off. It was just something that popped into my head on the topic. But at the end of the day, it's all about how many throws you have, and it's all relative.
Exactly. Low score wins. So does most fun, supposedly. But I haven't
low score.
Gotten a paycheck from most fun just yet.
So let's talk about
that one bar.
I was going to say, we can get into a little bit more about the course and whatnot, but let's talk a little bit about the results from Idlewild. We saw, your kind of standard names filtered to the top by the end of the round, or by the end of the tournament. Danis, watching at home, what did you see?
Yeah, watching at home. Well, first, I was watching the scores for the women. I kind of cheated because, I wanted to find out what happened as it was happening. So I was watching the women's scores on UDisc, and then obviously watching the coverage during the men's lead card. But it kind of seemed like Paige Pierce was on the second card for second round, struggling, not doing too much, and then all of a sudden she turned it on and had a great back nine and found herself way in the lead. And then from there had a phenomenal final round to hold off Sarah Hokum, very, very good woods golf player, and Lisa Fakis, who finished in third. But the women's race was, even though it was a 9-throw victory for Paige, it wasn't, the typical Paige is in control the whole time, because that first round she didn't do all that great, and found herself off of the lead card, and then from there it wasn't doing all that hot, and then turned it on, and from there it was on, and she got herself a nice little payday, $1,200, and a 9-throw win over Hokum.
And you can really break that down. If you take a look at it, you can break that down to the last 3 or 4 holes on that course for all 3 rounds. The first round, Paige was 3 over, and Jessica Weiss was 1 over. But then on Friday, Paige was even through the back 3. Sarah Hokum was 8 or 9 over. Jessica Weiss was 3 over, 4 over. And then same thing on Saturday. Paige went 1 over. Hokum was 3 over. Jessica Weiss was 3 over. They could have basically played the last 3 holes 3 times, and we would have had the same winner with probably close to the same result. That's the way that course plays. You're trying for an FPO. You're trying to maintain your par through the front 9 and not get chewed up by the back 3.
Yeah, and that was everybody.
For everybody, but
up and spit out by that back 9. That was some serious. I think I tweeted it out after first or second round saying, "All right, it looks like score on the front, hold on for dear life on the back, and just par. Like pars were. I'm sure pars, on some of them were in all reality a birdie, but pars felt like birdies for the most part on that backstretch."
So to follow up regarding the women's field, what I think is just almost mind-numbing is the separation, the tiers. We usually see, for the most part, historically, we see a Cat and a Paige and a Val, most often, kind of at one set of scores, usually really tight and close together. Then there can be kind of a second tier, your Hokums, your Ficus, your Jessica Weiss. Again, generically speaking, if you're just looking at their sheer ratings, that's kind of what you can see. What blew my mind in looking at this is there's Paige, again, her 9-stroke margin of victory, which is very substantial, of course, right behind Hokum, her and Ficus and Weiss, pretty close. So they're all within a few strokes of one another. But then a massive drop to the next tier, which includes Rebecca Cox, Katrina Allen, Melody, and Angela. But here's what I'm really getting at is we've seen that Katrina Allen statistically has struggled recently. She has not been in that winner's circle on top of the podium lately. And now you see that at this event, when she's within a stroke or two of Paige and they're battling it out and going to a playoff with Jessica Weiss in Utah, everything's so close. Then you come to this event and you see her 29 strokes off of Paige. That's another world. I mean, that's just an entirely different world. 29, even dividing that out, that's an average of 10 strokes per round that she's down to Paige. The course is difficult, but there is something that has to be said about the disparity there because that's not normal. It's 1 or 2 strokes after 3 or 4 rounds usually. But 10 per round adding up to 29, that's massive. And I didn't see any of the women's play live, so I can't even speculate. Clearly you get off of your line out there and you can get severely punished. I look at her scores. Is
Kat known for being a finesse golfer, for being an accurate? She's known for being a long thrower, but is she really known for being extremely accurate? I don't think she.
I would say she's as good as anyone else.
I would say she's close. I just think there's something off with her game. Either she's pressing, maybe she needs to do what Ricky's doing and take a week off or 2 weeks off. I don't know if she's willing to do that, but ultimately there's something wrong with her game. We've seen it from the beginning of the year. Earlier in the year, she said it was her putt she was working on or her drive. She said she was gaining some distance and she was still trying to dial in the distance. There's just something wrong.
And I'm, again, thanks to you, Disc, I was just real quickly looking. And this is, of course, no disrespect to anyone, but when you're on the top and you're up there in this conversation, you have to look. I see she had 1 birdie on Thursday, just 1 on the shortest hole on the course, the 192-footer. Friday, she had 0 birdies and finished out the back 8 holes on the course, 10 or 12 over. And on Saturday, she just carded 2 birdies. Kat's the type of player where
I don't count the birdies. I mean, the birdies are very few and far between
here. She only had 3, and Kat and Paige are the type of players where you can look at them. I mean, you see Kat on a weekend 29 birdies. The rest of the entire women's field at a tournament, 23 combined birdies. So when she only has 3 on a weekend, again, that's saying something.
Yeah, I don't know. I heard someone. I read something on one of the boards that someone had watched her play, and it didn't look like her heart was in it.
Okay.
So, but that,
yeah, and again, I did not see her play. I didn't see any of the women play at any point. Unfortunately, they went off earlier, and Todd Dodge was out catching the action for us, and then Steve Dodge was, of course, editing it. So, big shout out to those guys. But it's interesting to see because Kat is in that tier. Paige, Kat, Val.
Well, we saw it last year with Paige when she had stuff going on. It affected her game, and this year now she's come out with a vengeance. Cool one on the board, says there's a lot going on with her life. Maybe she'll be back in 2018. She just needs to regroup. So again, we'll see. Ultimately, though, the story is Paige Pierce kicking butt, taking names. So,
Yep.
Not a bad payout either. I think I know there was some conversation. We can get into that later regarding the Masters, Pro Worlds Masters conversation, one that may or may not ever go away, but solid payout, solid performance for Paige. So, of course, congratulations to her. And on the women's side, I know we spoke a few minutes ago of the men that were the notable men missing. It's hard to – I mean, they're both notable players, but they haven't been completely engulfed in the scene this year. You would have to include in there – Valerie Jenkins, of course, and then I think who we're going to see a little more as the season wraps up is Ragna, but again, she hasn't been, pressing and out there quite as much. Any other women that we were surprised to not see? Was Hannah? Did we see Hannah out there as well? Hannah was absent this weekend as well. Hannah Leatherman. So good stuff.
She has an injury.
Yeah. Okay.
She dropped out of Ledgestone, I believe. But let's wrap up.
Yep.
Idlewild on the men's side. Obviously, most of you should know James Conrad was able to do what a lot of people have not been able to do, and that was hold off Paul Macbeth. If you didn't watch live, if you haven't watched the Smash Cut or Jomez or however you prefer to watch, go watch. It's an incredible battle between those guys, and really Nate was up there. He had he kind of tacked on a bunch of Nate Perkins tacked on a bunch of strokes there at the end. But James and Paul, man, hitting putts on the last hole, both of them. Paul hit a putt to put the pressure on James. James cleaned up his putt. Paul getting one of the few birdies on hole 18. Just an incredible battle. Had to be a lot of fun to watch, a lot of fun to call. Wish I was there in person to see it, but it was sure fun to watch live, and then obviously watch Jomez when they got the coverage out. Except I keep having to mute it because they keep having Big Germ on commentary over and over.
You know what? When someone throws themselves at you, at some point you just give in.
Either that or they got to roll over him with the RV. One of the two.
Germ's he's all right. He's all right. But no, shout out to Conrad.
He just gets it done in the woods. I mean, he throws great mid-range and great putter shots. He doesn't get himself in a ton of trouble. He might not have, don't get me wrong, he's not a short thrower, but he might not have the distance that Macbeth and Dickerson have, but he makes up for it putting the disc where he wants to put it.
Yeah. So. In Dickerson, I mean, I expected him to be up at the top, but man, watching a few of his decisions on hole 18, both rounds he was on Smashbox 2 rounds, correct? First round and second round.
Yes, because
he went to that roller.
That first round he tried to throw. He was off to the left in some woods. He kind of tried to lean out and throw some weird backhand cut roller, and all I kept thinking was like, I'd rather see you throw a forehand roller, because he was what, 80 feet to the mouth of the woods, maybe 100 feet.
Yeah,
and I think you can get a forehand roller to kind of go where you're trying to go. You're not getting to the hole, or just chuck a forehand and get out into the open, pitch up, and take your medicine. And he tried something, and I looked at him, and then I looked at Gio that was there, and I go, he's not going to try a backhand roller here, is he? And it ended up just like you would have. The worst case scenario, he went straight left back into the woods.
Yeah, and then second round when he got off to the edge, and I'm like, Chris, don't do it. Don't do it. Oh, I was probably yelling at the TV because you want to see him succeed, and to see him go for that backhand roller on that really just a really high difficult level shot. But I mean he's I think he's up to 1030 now. His rating got up into that 1030 mark today, and he
birdied it the final round. So.
Yeah, which we kept making the joke that we assumed he did it with a pair of backhand rollers, but we're not sure.
Looking at the scores, everybody has all these holes that you can go back and say, the strokes. But I mean, to lose by 3 throws, one has to kind of look at that and say, if you just would have pitched up or gotten out of there instead of really tacking on the strokes. But fun battle to watch. Paul Ulibarri continued his great play. He finished in 4th place at 9 under par, so 4 throws off the pace. And Ulibarri, I know he's going to be on later, but he's just essentially he's the second half of the season has been on a tear. We saw him have a poor finish at Utah. Just didn't look himself. Still finished in 10th place, but then Beaver State, 5th place, won a couple tournaments. Poor Worlds performance. Won a tournament at home, 2nd Majestic, 6th European Open, won the Hambrick. Idlewild, good finish. Twin Falls Classic, he won that. Solid finish at Ledgestone. He's one of the hottest players on tour right now, and it's all due to that putt. He's finally got that putting confidence and swagger going, and with Uli, when he walks up to putts, and you can tell when he has the confidence, and he has that confidence right now. And if he continues to go with that, don't be surprised to see him, up there at the top of the leaderboard, and maybe even getting himself another big victory, whether it's NT or maybe he'll break through on a major or on the Pro Tour,
or maybe we'll see the resurgence of the American Disc Golf Tour, and he'll find himself on ESPN.
Ooh, doubtful.
One could, fingers crossed.
Nope. All right, let's wrap up Idlewild, and let's move on to what do you want to talk about? You want to talk about the PDGA Pro Masters World Championships?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, wait. Have we queued up the section of I was going to actually do that. Find the section of tape last week, tape we call it, where the two of you absolutely vehemently disagreed with me about seeing Felberg in the top 4.
Yep.
One of you said it's not going to happen. The other said, what do you think? And the other one agreed and said, nope, it's not going to happen. And I said, it's gonna.
Yeah. He did.
He climbed. He had to scratch and claw all
climbed,
week.
Yep.
He was like 15th or 17th or 12th. And every single round,
he moved his way up.
Okay, I just didn't know if you guys had that tape.
No, I don't have that tape. He did get in by a stroke or two into the finals. So
yeah,
but that's it. He made it. Way to go.
Okay, just thought we'd point that out.
Anything else I said a year ago that you want to bring up that I was wrong about?
No, I'm sure we can find more recent. Don't worry. I don't have to go digging a year ago.
Next thing you know, you're going to be paying Smashies to go and find things that I said and was completely wrong about.
And while we're clearing the air, this is a perfect time. I made a comment about Big Germ in reference a few minutes ago. And just to be clear, there was no Josh Anthon reference or commentary whatsoever. Big Germ, Jomez drives an RV, so on and so forth. I just want to be very crystal clear. That was not in a joke, back-ended joke in any other way. So
I didn't even. The funny thing is, I
didn't either. Someone else brought it up on the board.
I didn't catch it at first, and then I saw it on the board.
And it was poor word choice.
Yeah, not necessarily the best word choice.
If you're not thinking about it, it was poor wording. So I want to be very clear and clear the air there. But okay, go on. I'll own up to it, Dana.
So throughout the week, Robert Bainbridge looked like he had a pretty good, I wouldn't say a lock by any means, clearly, but he was playing very well above his rating, up until the semis when it looked like Mr. Schultz caught him. Right, Dana?
Yeah. Robert was up there all weekend shooting some great rounds. He obviously came out with the 1052 rated first round and had the early lead. We talked about it last week. I think Johnny said he wouldn't stay up there the rest of the week for going back and looking at it. But yeah, it came down to the semis where Barry beat him by 4 throws. Barry shot a 48, 1038 rated round, where Robert 52,000 rated round. And from there, Barry beat him by 3 during the final 9, and got himself another major win. Terry, how many major world championships does Barry Schultz have between the divisions?
Well, he's got 03 and 04.
2 open.
And then does he have 2 or 3?
2 USDGC?
I was going to say worlds,
just
just worlds. Yeah. I think he has. Does he have 2 Masters worlds now? Now a third? Does that sound about right? As soon as he went to Masters, my whole world got rocked in terms of keeping track. It was so easy to keep track of Kenny and Barry. They were kind of the battle for so many years. And
I want to say all right, so
Barry has 3 USDGCs and he had 2 Worlds titles. That was before he was Masters aged, though.
Yeah, we're talking Worlds titles.
That's a good question.
Well, he's got it.
Anybody got the math? Did you have that research, or were you genuinely asking? I know his PDGA number, if that matters.
I just had a computer snafu, but so he in the last couple of years he did not play the Masters World Championships. I want to say he lost in a playoff to Climo in 2014 at the World Championships. Yep.
At the World Championships in
Master Division.
No, that was not a playoff between Climo and Schultz.
Sorry, he lost in the finals.
Sure.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, I know there wasn't a playoff because I was standing there. I watched Kenny throw in his final putt. I recorded it and did an interview with him, so I knew that there wasn't necessarily a playoff there. Yeah, he took second at that Worlds.
Yeah, either way,
he didn't play Masters Worlds for the next 2 years.
He's got a handful of World Championships. We can just say that.
What's that?
I said he's got a handful of World Championships. We can just say that.
All right. Well, he tacked another on this weekend. Also shooting well was Mike Moser. He finished in 4th place in the Masters division, and finishing in 3rd, Dave Felberg, who I predicted wouldn't finish in 3rd place, but shout out to Dave for showing he's still got a little something left in the tank. He definitely started out the weekend slow and then kind of turned it on there. Mm-hmm. Round 4 on, he went 1039, 1021, 1038, 1038. So a little bit of vintage Felberg, still something left in the tank. Doesn't look like he is. Yeah, he is signed up for Vibram, and then he's going to be playing the Tim Selensky U.S. Masters Hall of Fame Classic. That is what he's currently signed up for. So we're not going to see him out in Vermont, but he does have a chance at another major title in the Tim Selensky Masters Championship, and then possibly USDGC if he gets qualified up. Finishing 5th place, Johnny Mcrae. Apparently still battling the Lyme's disease flare-up. So hoping he has a speedy recovery there. But shout out to Barry. On the women's side, Elaine King held off charging Leslie Todd. Leslie really made her move during round 6, where she beat Elaine by 6 throws.
6 strokes, yeah, I remember.
Yeah, Elaine had a pretty big lead, and then all of a sudden, Leslie was right there in the mix, and then Elaine did hold off in the finals, beat Leslie by 1 to win by 3 throws. Courtney McCoy and Des Redding tied for 3rd place. Grandmasters, Ron Convers went back-to-back, got himself a 4-throw victory over Eric Rainey and Tim Keith. On Grandmasters women, Sue Stevens from Michigan got herself a home state victory by a bunch of throws, I think roughly 20 or so, over Pam Rinke. In a super tight battle in the Senior Grandmasters, Dave Greenwell came back and beat Kenny Burad Lee by 1 throw. Oh, that mosquito's back.
Whoa.
Got him.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
Excuse me.
What's up
Good
with
thing I
that?
got a shirt on. But
I thought it came out of
yeah,
your chest hair.
Dave Greenwell got himself another victory, and I wish I knew, but he's played in every World Championships.
Mm-hmm.
He's got himself how many Worlds victories over the different divisions?
A lot.
Yeah, I'm not even going to fathom a guess.
Does he have one in every division he's played in? Does he?
I would assume so, but I guess I
so.
don't know that off the top of my head. I would say he's got a dozen. I'd give him an easy dozen.
I was going to say for sure 10.
Yeah, somewhere between 10 and a dozen total wins.
Yeah, Dave Greenwell, legend, Hall of Famer.
One of the greatest ever.
Yep, definitely one of the best ever. Still an incredible golfer, and he proved it this weekend with another World Championship. Shot some really strong golf, mostly in the 990s, upper 980s. Popped off a couple thousand rated rounds to do it, and he was down. He was down big to Kenny Burad Lee pretty early, but stayed strong and ended up with that 1-throw win. Johnny Sias finished in 3rd, and Rick Vokes in 4th. On the legend side, Terry Calhoun got himself a victory in his home state pretty handily. They only played 4 rounds over the championship. Also playing 4 rounds was the Senior Legends and Pete May. They actually kind of interesting. The Senior Legends, maybe because they had 4, they played a finals. But Pete May got himself the victory over Donald Stevens. So congratulations to all the winners at the World Championships. We can finally close the World Championships book for 2017 and start training for next year.
Well, and what I think the follow-up conversation to that will be, and by whose measures and whose test, and what metrics, was it successful to have them separated, and what ultimately were the positives and the negatives to having the World Championship separated? Because there were some on each side. There were definitely some positives, some negatives, some of which they knew, and some of which they probably didn't experience until we got into those situations. And it's been interesting for me, for instance, who's been to, this year I was at the AM Worlds. I've been to a ton of different AM Worlds for lots of different reasons. I've been to 25 or 30 Pro Worlds, of which we were at this year, and now having it separate. And next year, me and Johnny are technically eligible to play in a Masters Worlds next year. So I don't know if we'll be there in a media capacity or in even a competitive capacity, but that's what I'd love to know is when we sit down and we take really critically look at and think over what were the takeaways, what were the positives and the negatives. I don't see it changing and going back to the previous format necessarily, but I wonder what we can all say we've learned from it. It's more manageable, could be played on less courses. We saw a really interesting decision being made that the Pro Masters ultimately played what seemed like more golf, more grueling golf, and they were technically older competitors by most accounts. So that was an interesting decision. The cities that they're in, things like cell signal, and then take it one step further and just let's talk about the resources. Yes, it's more manageable for the particular clubs to host a 200-person Worlds and a 200-person Pro Worlds and a Pro Masters World, so on and so forth. That's more manageable, but then the PDGA's resources are drawn out in a different way. You have some of the same PDGA people And I think of a Marty Gregoire and a Michael Downs and these types who then, instead of being gone for 1 or 2 weeks, at a combined worlds, you're gone for 8 or 10 straight days. Now you've got 3 different worlds. Next year there'll be 4 different world championships spanning 4 different weeks. And when you add up the media component, whether it's live or recorded, and then you add up all of the different other components of the assets and the people that go and assist, it's a different dynamic. So those are all things I think that need to be talked about and considered when we're moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think it's going to take another year or two of this format to really sit down and say, is this where the future? Is this how we're going to continue to move on? Right now, it seems like, just off the top of my head, yes, it's going to be best to have these split, but there are a number of great reasons to combine it. But I think overwhelmingly, at the moment, it's probably a good thing that they're split.
Well, and then there's also, and this is relatively minor, there's the handful of people that can, quote-unquote, double dip, and that they could go actually play both the Pro Masters Worlds and the regular Open Division Worlds. So that's something else, and I think that's a pretty minor conversation. Some people think that shouldn't even be allowed, and I don't know why it wouldn't be. I'm perfectly fine with that. If you're 48 and you want to go hang and try and compete against some 22-year-olds, and then the next week you want to go play amongst the people that are your age, I'm good with that. More power to you.
Yep. Well, on the other side of the world this last weekend was the Finnish Nationals in some town that I can't pronounce in Finland, obviously, Finnish Nationals. But winning that in the 91-person Open Division field was Seppo Paju. Got himself a victory by 2 throws over Vaino Michaela and Leo Peronen. So want to give a shout out to Seppo for the win there. And then on the women's side, they had a 14 person division, and Evelina Slonin, she got an 8-throw victory over Henna Blumeros and Anna Sofia Hypus. But I think I saw a post maybe from UC that the top 3 women were all under 18 years old. So
some young talent.
Yep. And they're all, Evelina's rating looks like I'm not sure if it's updated on this, but 933. And then Henna is at 910 and Anna 860. So, but Evelina, she's definitely a world-class player, and is she going to be coming back to the States at all this year? It doesn't look like she's signed up for anything. We saw her touring here stateside a little bit early in the season. Likely we'll see that again next year, hopefully, coming and playing against the U.S.'s top women, and see if she can continue to improve. And then going to give a shout out to Timu Halopa, who won the Masters division. But yeah, a lot of good golf over there. It's continuing to get better and better. Here stateside, one more event. I just wanted to say Alex Geisinger beat Cal Levisca in a playoff at the Cedar Creek Open in Fairmont, Minnesota. After 4 rounds and a final 9, they were tied. Wow. Geisinger beat Cal by 1 during the finals to tie it up, and I believe it went to 2 playoff holes, if I remember hearing correctly, and Geisinger took the win on the second hole. PDGA says $2,000 to first place, $1,000 to Cal, so really strong payouts there. But nice shooting to Geisinger. He's been one of those players that's been battling a shoulder injury this year, so looked like he got over the shoulder injury and played some really good golf this weekend. His best round of the weekend was a 1050 rated round, and then the rest of them were all well above his rating. So
that's a very, very healthy payout.
Yep.
I'm sorry, you said $2,000 for first and $1,000 for second?
Yep. And then
How many in the division?
50 open players. I've heard this is just an awesome event. Trevor B is the tournament director, but apparently he runs just an amazing event. It's one of those can't miss events up in Minnesota, and it fills up every year from what I can tell, and ton of players. Holly Finley won the women's division by 24 throws over Lauren Butler. Okay. So shout out to Holly for the victory there. But yeah, not a bad payday for staying and playing in your home state for some of those Minnesota guys.
And I want to give a shout out to a Smashy out there, one of our good friends, Jordan Castro, on a couple things. One, he's now over 1,000 rated. He's at 1,003. And he put a post out there saying about an event this past weekend. After being down by 8 going into the second round, and then being down 5 strokes going into the last hole, he won in a playoff.
How did he get 5 strokes on the last hole is my question.
I don't know. It doesn't quite explain it.
Did they play hole 18 at Idlewild forwards then backwards?
I don't know, but I'm guessing there was a lot of OB to be had, and he made up 5 strokes on the final hole to win, and he ended it in a playoff, I believe, on the first hole, I think he said. So congratulations to Jordan out there. That is an epic comeback and epic choke by the other guy.
Yes.
So
you should figure out who that is.
1080 rated first round, I think it was. Colin, I want to say Colin Poe.
Colin Poe. Okay, one of the finalists at Am Worlds. Or no, not finalist, just missed out on the finals. Sorry, Colin.
Yeah.
So shout out to Jordan, who did awesome, and congratulations out there. You're still tearing it up and kicking some butt.
Yeah, he said he did it on the second hole. The playoff was ended on the second hole.
Second hole, okay.
But his competitor took a quadruple circle 9, and he carded the 4 on the what would have been the last hole, or the last hole regulation.
Literally silly. So Colin Poe went 1080. He shot a 47 first round, 1081, and then a 61 second round, 937. So I want to say the same I'm pretty sure they played the same course, maybe not, but nonetheless, great first round, Colin. First cash.
Great first round, horrible last hole.
Yeah, that's a tough one to swallow.
That's really rough.
No, it is. I mean, and I'm not poking any fun at him. That is definitely a rough way to.
If I knew him, I'd poke fun at him. But I don't know.
He was. I met him at Am Worlds. He was in one of the cards that I featured at Am Worlds. Super nice guy, and so yeah, definitely tough to see.
So I'm looking at Jordan. His rating's 998, Johnny.
Someone said.
Was it 998 on that? Click on his name once.
Yeah, go to his.
It's not, as of August 22nd.
Okay.
It's 998.
All right, Jordan.
Maybe he was 1,003 and it went down because I thought I saw something.
Then let's quit talking about it.
Yep, sorry, Jordan.
We take it all back.
Take it back. I saw it was an earlier post for when he did break 1,000. I'm sorry.
Ouch.
I thought that happened today.
Awkward.
So that's all I got for this last weekend, but we're back to national tour events coming up this weekend in Pittsburgh. Johnny, Terry, are you guys going to be there?
No, we did some testing earlier this month, and we talked to some people that were there, and they did some testing for us. And unfortunately, Pittsburgh Moraine Park, as we saw at Pro Worlds many years ago, the cell signal is just garbage there. It's too wooded. It's a little off the beaten path. It would not be worthwhile for us to waste everybody's time and effort to be out there to try live. So we decided that, with the PDGA, obviously, that we would just not even attempt it, and we will look at other options in the future maybe. But for now, we're just kind of sitting tight.
So Smashbox will not be live. I, however, will be going out there on very, very late Thursday evening. I don't think I get in until after midnight on Thursday. grabbing a car, going and finding a hotel or finding the hotel, the host hotel. And then I think I'm going to be up filming the women. I heard that they were not officially had coverage, so I'm going to be hustling around each mid-morning, I believe is when they're teeing, to film the women's lead card each of the 3 days. That's my plan. In a perfect world, I'd love to get out and film some more in the afternoon. However, we'll see how the timing works out. So if you're in that area and you know how to work a camera, reach out to me, and maybe there's something you could do to help out. I had said I might be looking for a media assistant of sorts or someone that knows what they're doing. So if you are and you're interested in helping me out, reach out, and I'd love to talk to you. So you'll see me there, and I believe, I think I heard that Jomez will be the other entity that's planning on being out there. I think Disc Golf Examiner and a few of those guys might be doing some stuff too, but in terms of where you're kind of used to going and seeing action, I think you'll see it on my channel and then probably on Jomez's channel.
Yeah. This is going to be an awesome weekend. We've got Simon Lizotte coming back on the scene. He's had a tremendous year coming off the knee injury. He kind of disappeared from tour, went and played a few after Worlds, or actually not even after Worlds, but looks like after GVO he went home and to Europe, that is, and played a few events, came back for Worlds, and then back to Europe. But he's here in the States. He's in Pittsburgh. He's playing this weekend, so that's exciting. Nate Sexton, he's making his return to the national scene. That's exciting. Josh Anton, coming off the big win at Ledgestone. He went home. I don't believe he played this last weekend, but it seems he's found his rhythm. Eagle McMahon back on tour. We've got Barry Schultz signed up, coming off a Masters victory. There's Paul Ulibarri, who's been shredding lately. Just so much, and then I haven't even mentioned Paul or Ricky. Ricky coming off the off week, and Macbeth second place last weekend. That's got to burn a little bit. Put a little bit more on him to shoot well, but this is a tough one to call. Last time the tour was in Pittsburgh was for Worlds, and that's when Paul absolutely demolished everybody and the courses. Back-to-back course records at Moraine, at Deer Lakes. They're just playing Moraine this weekend, every round at Moraine. So a little bit different, but he's got, I'm sure that's going to be in his mind. The second place from last weekend is going to be in his mind. And we've got Ricky, who's looking to regain that hot play that he's had all year long up until recently. Just I don't even know who to pick if you were to ask me. So I'll leave it to Yuli and you guys.
Paul. That's who I always pick. Paul.
Okay. Well, as you said, the field will have no shortage of talent, so it will be very exciting to watch it unfold. And they're going to play. I've been getting in contact with the TD and the staff a little bit, and I believe they're going to play kind of one layout, I think Friday, and then a slightly modified layout Saturday and Sunday. So you're going to see a few things get changed up just a little bit. I think the tees remain the same. I think there's some pin positions that might get switched up just a little bit as the weekend goes on. The women, on the other hand, are going to play from the blue tees and then have a few different pin position changes as the weekend goes on. But men will play from the I think they're called the gold tees there, and then the women will play from the blue tees is what I've heard. So nonetheless, looking forward to all of the action and back at it. 3 rounds over the 3 days, all 3 days being tee times. And I believe there's a PDGA clinic that is taking place tomorrow already. And maybe some kind of doubles with Dude. I think he's doing some Dude doubles over at Knob Hill, if I remember what I saw on the internets. Yeah, and then
it's a fun course.
SmashBox. Wow. Jomez doing a challenge of sorts that I think we saw. So that should be exciting as well. I think a little 3-on-3-on-3 challenge for how to possibly the quickest team to complete a hole, a disc golf hole of some picking. So we'll see how that turns out.
Yeah, it sounds interesting. I'm kind of excited to see that, see what it turns out to be. But thinking about, as I'm looking at this list of players that is signed up, do you think the players coming from Idlewild are going to have a leg up on those that skipped out on last weekend?
I don't think skills-wise, but are they a little more in tune or dialed in and throwing some tight wooded lines? Meh, it won't hurt, but I mean, that's not to say that Nate Sexton's skills disappeared just because he wasn't out there last weekend. So that's an interesting angle at it, Dana, because like you said, once you hit hole 7 at Idlewild, you were trying to pipe it down lines, very specific fairways.
Some of those moraine fairways are gonna maybe look huge compared to what they were doing at Idlewild.
True, very true. How did that course translate, as we were about to cut you loose here, how did that course translate to you watching at home in terms of what you saw as to what we were pushing out there? What were you thinking?
I thought it filmed very well. Obviously, the film isn't going to show a lot of the elevation. I kind of read some locals' comments about play this course, and it just doesn't do the elevation doesn't the video doesn't do it justice. But I thought that it filmed well, both the live the live version and the post-produced versions were high quality and easy to watch. A couple of those holes where they're throwing over the trees, you can kind of lose the flight. That's not all that fun, but yeah, I thought it was pretty good.
Okay, it was interesting for us because that's a very tight course. It's got length, it's got the elevation, it has a little bit of everything there, and yet out seemingly in almost what felt like the middle of nowhere, some of the best cell signal all year long.
Yeah, I was
figure.
I was telling Terry I bumped up the quality that we push out at to a higher quality because I knew we had that much good cell signal that we could afford to increase the stream quality. So if you notice that it looked just a little bit crisper, that's why. Don't expect it to stick with Vibram. We know Vibram, we're at a premium for that. So.
All right, Dynamite. We see DJ Mike is on the board. Cool one. One of our favorite Smashies also commented and said if DJ Mike Fierke married Lisa Fakis, it would be Lisa Fakis Fierke.
Yes, it would.
I don't know if she swipes right, though. All right, Dana. Looking forward to seeing you probably next Tuesday night. And we'll wrap up and see how things went in Pittsburgh. And then right after that, the world moves into Maple Hill, which is also exciting.
All right, next Tuesday I'll be out on the East Coast.
You'll be in transit. And actually, we maybe just tell the Smashies right now that
we might wait till Wednesday night.
Yeah, we may hold off till we're all at Maple Hill on Wednesday. So
not all of us.
Well, all the cool people will be going to Maple Hill. And with me traveling on Wednesday as well, yeah, we may have next Tuesday night's podcast may just turn into next Wednesday night instead. So
all right.
Breaking that news now. All right, pal. Well, thanks for all your insights. We appreciate it. And we'll look forward to seeing you some more in a few days.
Sounds good.
Have a great night.
Have a nice evening.
Thanks, Dana.
Good night. And Dana Vicich signing in and out. We appreciate it. Soon we will, in fact, have Paul Ulibarri joining us. Usually we told Yuli we might get to him a little earlier, so hopefully he's still around and available to come on to the show for us. And Seth from the Disc Golf Pro Tour is suggesting we broadcast from the train next Wednesday. Next Wednesday should be very exciting. Both Chad and I will be traveling from Milwaukee straight to Boston. A few minutes later, Seth will arrive, who's been doing a ton of the social media you're seeing out there with the Disc Golf Pro Tour. And then I think we're going to take the train for the first time, my first time, out to Worcester. And then once we arrive in Worcester, it's the downtown disc golf experience. So if you haven't heard about it, there's essentially like a stadium, coliseum type situation there. And Dynamic Disc is the presenting sponsor of it. And similar to what we've seen in a few other places, we're going to have the opportunity to throw around in a setting that's indoors, where baskets will be set up, and we're going to play kind of a little bit of a stadium like Coliseum type situation. So excited to do that as well next Wednesday. Once we hustle out of there and then head over back to Maple Hill, that's where I'll likely get everything set up, and then we'll do our SmashBoxxTV podcast from there. I'll dial in remotely, that is. So look for that next Wednesday. All right. Any luck on Uli?
No,
Okay.
No, I messaged him, so
all right, we'll see if we can get him in a few minutes and see if we can make things happen.
Yeah, I'm just looking at some things. We're having a couple strange internet issues. And,
we are. Is that a good thing?
No, that's not good at all.
Okay.
Try your personal site, too. I think that's down. Maybe you want to take a look at that. Anyway, so... Yeah, I reached out to Uli. He said he just saw it, so hopefully he'll be on with us in a couple minutes here.
Okay.
And, yeah.
We'll go from there. Daryl out on the board says Battle Box. Yeah, that might be a good situation for us to have some in-person trivia or contest with some of our players. That's not such a bad idea. If you haven't been out to Maple Hill, you should certainly make the trek. It will be a lot of fun this year. So I'll go ahead, and I know it's a full week out, but this year the event, as always, will be taking place Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and just like we had a few weeks ago at the Ledgestone, we'll broadcast on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So Thursday will not be a live situation. It'll be recorded. There'll be at least one card recorded by Jomez, and they'll put something out. But Friday, Saturday, and Sunday is what we're looking at for the live broadcast as that event wraps up. So. And I think this guy's still in need of an opening. I don't know who we're going to have to reach out to, but he's going to have his own show segment opening here. I think we're just about ready for none other than Paul Ulibarri. Hey, buddy, how you doing?
What's going on, Paul? I'm trying a brand new shot with.
Guys?
I'm trying a brand new shot with you. We're gonna go 3 wide this time.
Wow.
Yeah, a little different.
I've been accused of being 3 wide before, but
Yeah, well, yeah.
anyway. How you doing, buddy?
How's it look?
Well, we'll find out. We'll see what people yell at us. So, Idlewild, once again, you played pretty well. You finished here 4th place. Not bad. I'm sure, obviously, when you look back on it, you can find 5 or 6 strokes that you'd love to have back. But is it your putting? Is that what you're doing better now? Is that kind of where your game is improving in the last couple of weeks, or is it us? You can be honest.
Yeah, no, it has a big part of it for sure. You know, you're making your putts. It makes the rest of your game. Everything feels easier. Everything's less stressful. Yeah, so I have been putting better for sure, but there's a certain confidence that comes with that you know definitely translates into the rest of what I'm doing.
Do you go out and practice your putting any more or less right now than you did, say, 2 months ago or 6 months ago or a year ago?
No,
okay.
Probably less.
Okay. So there is something to be said about that. Now, a great question that Dana asked as we were talking about last weekend versus this weekend, and I know you're a guy that's out there every weekend, but do any of the players have an advantage if you played at Idlewild and for a good portion, at least 2/3 of the holes, you were trying to hit very tight wooded gaps? Are you any more dialed moving into this weekend at Moraine, where we're going to kind of see some similar challenges?
You know, I don't think so. I think it just is what it is, whether it be wide open or tight woods. You know, you got to hit your lines, and whoever's on is going to be on. I think there could be something to be said about you know, like you were. I was listening in earlier. Sure, there is something to be said about having those tight lines, being a little more dialed in or whatnot. But you know, Idlewild, I feel like was similar to what Pittsburgh going to be like. There are some wide open holes in Pittsburgh, just like there were in Idlewild. You know. So,
sure. Okay.
I think probably just the competitiveness going back into this next weekend. If you had played last weekend, you're kind of in a nice rhythm, and especially if you played well, you'll have some confidence going into there.
Fair enough. Now, when we were there for the World Championships a couple years ago, there's 2 or 3 very, very challenging courses. I think of Slippery Rock.
Right.
I think of all the courses that were there, Deer Lakes, and of course over at Moraine. Now we're moving into this national tour event, and it's just the single course. And I've seen lots of banter back and forth, pros and cons. What's your take on going and, when you know there's a couple other really good quality courses there, what's your take on going there and just competing on the one for the weekend?
I'm an advocate for competing on one course, especially with a big tournament. I did hear that they're going to be moving pin positions, which that's something that I definitely don't like.
Okay.
You don't like them moving the pin positions between rounds in general, or?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I'm not a big. I mean, there's something to be said about like USDGC. They move and it's a little bit different, but that's more of a wide open course.
Okay.
I think I wouldn't have a problem with it if they had multiple baskets out, to where you could kind of get a better feel. Like, okay, I'm going to throw to this basket, I'm going to throw to that basket. But typically on a course like that, they're just going to have the one position in for the first round, and then you're going to kind of have to guess where the next one is.
Okay.
It's just a little tougher, I guess.
Okay. And that's interesting to say, because there was such a huge conversation just a week or two ago, of course, about Ledgestone, and someone saying, oh, is this getting boring? You're playing the Ledgestone layout over and over again. But then when you added that wind on the second day, plenty of people said this is like a completely different course anyway when you add 15 or 20 mile per hour winds. So I thought that was an interesting difference that we saw. I don't know. I mean, obviously wind can affect what happens out here at Moraine, but maybe not quite as drastically as we saw over at the Ledgestone course.
Right, and it looks like we're going to have plenty of good weather. It doesn't look like there's going to be any rain or anything, and should be. I think it's only a 3-round event, right? So
yes, 3 rounds. So we always have to ask. I feel like I want to plant a little chip on you. That's not creepy, but where are you now, and when do you get to town? When do you start really prepping? What's kind of your game plan?
Yeah, no, I'm actually in Buffalo,
Okay.
New York right now, visiting a buddy. We ran a clinic here in Buffalo today. We had about 25 people show up, so that was good. And then, we're going to head out to Pittsburgh tomorrow, get a practice round in. We'll have 2 days to practice, so it should be plenty of time. And, yeah, that's where I'm at right now.
Okay. You're familiar with the course. Again, we played there at Worlds a few years ago. Obviously, you're going to take all practice seriously, and you want a refresher, but is it that much more comfortable going to a place you're relatively familiar with already?
Absolutely, especially now I'm not a big throw 1,000 shots per hole in my practice rounds anymore. I kind of just get through the rounds. One of the things with Idlewild that I felt like I definitely left on the course was I only got one practice round in on a course that I had never seen before. And that's rare for me to play a course that I've never seen before, especially a big event. So that was something I wish I would have gotten one more round in, especially since in the tournament I definitely improved every round by 2 or 3 strokes. So I felt like that was one thing that hurt me, that I'm gonna look in the future. If I'm playing a different course, I'll probably get there a little earlier in practice.
Okay. Recap the course. There was a lot of conversation. People were seeing it, yourself seeing it for the first time, a big germ seeing it for the first time. So there's a lot of accolades being thrown around, all completely warranted. So give us your take on that course, and give us the good and the bad, if there is any bad.
No, sure. I thought the course was good. I thought the par was a little off probably on certain holes, but that really doesn't bug me at all compared to like what a lot of people are saying about it. I really didn't like a few of the holes. I didn't like 17. I didn't like 18. Particularly
the pars
17.
or the holes?
What's that?
The pars or the holes themselves?
The holes themselves.
Okay.
I didn't feel like we're that good of holes. 17 was just atrocious. It
Okay.
was just,
here's
no spot to land. You know, I was on a card where everybody threw a pretty good shot, or I might have been commentating for a card. Everybody threw a really good shot, and nobody landed in bounds, and they all went out of bounds different ways. So,
and that was my argument. That was my argument on that hole. We talked about it just real briefly earlier. I said if that, I think they could make that a quote unquote good hole if you have a safe spot to pitch out to play it safe. If you want to go at the
Sure.
basket and risk the fluky OB, fine, you risk that, but give the players a safe landing zone where they can bail out and say, you know what, I don't want to risk it. Make it and then they bail out and they have to play up for their par 4, I think it is, on that particular hole. But not giving someone a spot to bail out makes that a fluky hole, and I think it diminishes the hole overall.
yeah, absolutely. There's no way to protect your score, I think is what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
There's just no way to go into that hole, even if you have 3-4 stroke lead, and being like, okay, I'm going to throw it here and I'm going to pitch it up. I'm going to get my par, and I won't lose the tournament here.
Mm-hmm.
I remember this second round, I went into the hole. I threw a bad shot. I took a 6. I went into the last round, same score. Threw a bad shot, took a 3. So, similar shots, 3 strokes different.
Okay. Well, and there's obviously
But
some...
other than those 2 holes, I really enjoyed the course. I thought it presented a great challenge for everybody. I thought the course was fair. It was one of the funnest courses that I played all year, for sure.
Well, and I know it was said quite a bit throughout the weekend. I feel like we all kind of felt like try and get those birdies early on in the round, get as many as you can, tuck them away in your little pocket in your satchel, and then just hold on for dear life as you're trying to battle through the back half. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, that's pretty much the way that the course was designed, for sure.
Yeah, getting progressively harder as they went on. And there was also conversation, huge shout out to the designers. There was talk about how they kind of walked around on the property for a couple of years to then lay out what they felt was the course that you're seeing, and then a couple of years to build it. I mean, it was really a long process. And what some didn't necessarily know, and I don't know how much we talked about it during the week, but that course on any given day is actually a 24-hole course and layout. And
right.
So for the Pro Tour, when the Pro Tour rolled into town, so to speak, there were a few holes that we walked right past or walked right over, and hand selected the holes to get to fit into the flow, and then to come up with that 18-hole layout. So everyone should know that if you went out there, you'd see a slightly different look, and the hole 13, as you know it, could very well be hole 19 when you go out there. So don't get too confused.
Right.
Check with those guys over at UDisc. I think they've got it all listed, as we talked about last week.
Now, did you do commentary? How many days did you do the commentary? 2 or 3 or just 1?
I did all 3 days of commentary for the Jomez boys.
Do you find that helps you at all, or does it not make a difference to you? I mean, watching the golf, whether it's yourself. What was that?
Helps me.
Oh, just watching the course, watching
better?
what? Yeah, helps you on the course as opposed to you get to watch other players throw. I know you guys take it pretty light between you and Germ. Just in general, seeing the course from a different angle. I didn't know if that type of thing helped you out, or if you thought it was a distraction at all.
No, I don't think it's a distraction. And sure, it's probably helps to see other lines and different perspectives, see the disc kind of come in from that second angle. Could definitely help. I never really thought about it, honestly.
Okay.
Well, and it's kind of interesting because depending on...
But it couldn't hurt.
That's true.
Yeah.
And depending on what group you watched, if someone went out there at, we'll say, noon on Friday, they may have seen no one attempt the over-the-top route on hole 7. But if you're out there watching lead card or second to last card or second card, you may see 3 out of 4 go over the top on 7. And that's just one example. Or you think about, some of the other holes where people won't even attempt a roller, maybe on hole 5, but yet 3 out of 4 on the lead card are all throwing rollers because they're that much more confident with that shot. So I think maybe to further what Johnny's talking about, sometimes, and now you being a top level player, you pretty much know where your skill sets are. But if you just watched certain groups, or you even take it a step further, the women played that course very differently. Same exact tees, but they had very different challenges in front of them based on how far they could get it. So we talked a little bit about the battle on the women's side. Paige kind of fought and clawed her way up into obviously ultimately taking it. Holcomb, who's kind of known for being a really good woodsy player, Paige has given her accolades, in fact, on just how well she can carve lines in the woods. She said that at Waco. Were there really any surprises to watch Paige and Holcomb and Weiss the way they battled? Were you shocked by any of that?
No, I wasn't shocked. I figured those would be the people up top. I was a little shocked with not shocked, but I'm actually surprised about how well Lisa's finishing. I've never really seen her play.
Okay.
But, over the last few tournaments, she's been performing at a very high level. So that's exciting to see it, a new face, making it up to the lead card and shaking things up a bit. So that was fun to watch.
Well, and I'll let you in on the little secret. Her putting is usually pretty awesome. She does not drive the furthest out of the group. I'd love to see her work on her turnover shots a little bit more. I don't see as many like gentle or light turnovers that I'd like to see from her in backhand throwing, but her putting, she is very confident, and more often than not, dead center chains just above the rim, and then she's got a pretty lethal kind of little frog jump putt from that 33 to 40 foot range, and when she's dialed, it's amazing. It's great watching her put up the scores that she does. So you're definitely going to see more of her. She's definitely touring hard, and she's fierce. Right. She's a fierce competitor out there. She'll smile and laugh and have a good time, but she also means business, and I've seen her play quite a bit this year, and you're right, it's been a great addition to seeing her shake things up on that leaderboard. National Tour, here we are. I think the National Tour is back in it. We just were at the Pro Tour, now National Tour, then a Pro Tour the weekend after. You're going to where all the best players are at the biggest events. What do these titles mean, or what do the differences in tours mean to you right now?
At the beginning of the year, beginning of last year, I thought the National Tour, was obviously the higher accolade to achieve something like that. And of course, when we're talking about majors and stuff, that definitely sets itself apart from everything else. But the Pro Tour and the World Tour now, I feel like if you win a Pro Tour, a World Tour, National Tour, to me they're, pretty much level as far as how important they are and what they will do for your career. Like seeing James win this weekend, I mean, the field that he beat, the money that he won, the crowd that he had to do it in front of, the cameras, everything, like it's all set up there to be a huge event. And so I don't see any difference between the National Tour, Pro Tour anymore, in my opinion. The tiers really don't mean a lot to me anymore as far as that that goes. I think they're all pretty much equal. Mm-hmm. I think that now it's Pro Tour, National Tour, World Tour, and then above those are the majors.
Okay, and that makes perfect sense. I know there's some criticism or challenge out there, and some people are saying, well, it was just a B tier this weekend. Well, the payout was not just a B tier. The coverage was certainly not just a B tier, as you had Prodigy, Smashbox, and Jomez all there. The course was not just a B tier. I mean, there were so many things that are above and beyond where I would like to challenge a lot of our players to say, look past the tiering right now and realize what the Pro Tour is doing, and it's very serious. So
no, absolutely, and even my sponsor is for the best players throwing out bonuses for now Pro Tours and World Tours and stuff, and it's the same as the National Tour. That doesn't depend on the tier, so
that's good to hear.
Hopefully the other companies will kind of get on board with that and start doing that, because you go to a tournament, even if it's a B tier, C tier, and you're beating that amount of competition or that amount of pressure with that amount of coverage, you know, you deserve a bonus or something for that, for sure.
Well, and I was just going to say, most B tiers don't have Macbeth, Dickerson, Johansson, Coling, Conrad, Andrew Fish, Brathwaite, Keegan, yourself, Gibson, McBride, Turner. I mean, you know, Melton, so on and so forth. It just goes on and on. That's not your just typical B tier. And when you perform well there, you're doing it on camera, and you're doing it with a very high level of play surrounding yourself. And so I'm glad to hear that.
And the gallery that's following you, you're gonna have to perform in front of not 1,000 people, but a couple hundred people at least. There's distractions. There's things you have to work through. I mean, it's a completely different ballgame when you have something like that compared to even playing against the competition without the gallery or without the cameras or something. So it's way different.
Okay. Well, so one thing that after the event wrapped up, there was almost simultaneously in Grand Rapids, the Pro Masters was wrapping up as well. We're seeing some of the front runners, the pioneers, the godfathers of our sport. And I don't always think that's fair. Everybody says, well, they're the ones that paved the way. Some of them just signed up for the PDGA a few months ago, so not all of them are our godfathers. But we saw Barry Schultz take it down. Obviously, a Wisconsin homeboy to Johnny and I. Really no shock or surprise with his solid performance. We see Elaine King, notch another one.
Most winningest golfer
of all
time.
So no real surprise there. Ron Converse in Grandmasters. Terry Calhoun, I know, took down a Legends division. So, but you made a post that got quite a bit of attention out there on the Facebooks. And why don't you recap, rather than me try to rehash it? Why don't you give us your perspective and what you were getting at when you made that post?
Sure, yeah. Well, I was under the impression when we split, Masters from the professional, I guess the Open, we split those two tournaments this year to where now the Masters World Championships and the Open World Championships is a completely different tournament. I was surprised that the Masters World Champion, Barry Schultz, I think he got $2,300. Whereas last year, Johnny Mcrae won Pro Masters and he got $3,000. The year before was something like $2,500 the year before that. So it was a good, it wasn't as much as in prior years. Now, my post was saying, let's work on that. Let's get them a little more. I don't think when they split, I don't think that they should get less, now that they're their own tournament and stuff. I mean, it's definitely a touchy subject because, now you get people like on my post saying, well, you've never run a tournament, you don't know what you're talking about, or, that's disrespecting the tournament directors or something like that. Anybody who knows me knows that that's not where I'm going with that post. I'm just clearly stating that he got less than pretty much any Masters World title in the last 5 years.
Sure. Okay.
And it's not necessarily, I can't speak for Barry. I can't speak for Kenny. I can't speak for all of those people. And I'm definitely not saying that they deserve as much as Open, of course. But I'm thinking for their biggest tournament, which is still their biggest tournament, the World Championships, so there should have been a better payout for first. But like I said, I don't know the logistics. It was just a post to try to put a little light on that and see where people's heads were at and stuff like that. And so,
well, I mean,
you're pretty much damned if you do, damned if you don't type thing.
There's an interesting way to look at it. I mean, how much does and these are the questions I don't even know. How much does the PDGA put into Masters Worlds versus Pro Worlds now, as opposed to when it was combined? Is it based? Some people were saying it should be based more on the size of the field, and then you think, well, that now we have a amount of time between the two where you might not necessarily know what the size of the field is going to be when you divvy out your money to Pro Worlds. Now next year, I'm assuming Masters Worlds will be before Pro Worlds, based on how late Pro Worlds is. The fact that it's in September. So there are all sorts of different variables now that we've separated them, and the sponsors when Prodigy gives let's just say hey, here's $100,000 to the PDGA, do they say this should go to the pros? Do they say split this up evenly? Do they have a say in that? There's a lot of things that we now need to get ironed out that, maybe it's already ironed out and I don't know, or maybe these are questions that we need to start asking.
And another point is we played the tournament this weekend. We had a big field. Like you said, some of the best players in the world were there. James won. He won the Pro Tour, $2,500, and Barry wins the World Championship, and he gets $2,300. So, there's money to be gotten out there. I'm not a tournament director. I have run tournaments before. I know what it takes, and it's extremely difficult, and I have the utmost respect for them because they literally pay my bills, and I don't do it because of how difficult it is. So I'm in no way disrespecting them in any way. I'm just wondering. I'm asking a question that I felt needed to be asked, and I just don't. I guess I'm just wondering if they're going to break away and have separate tournaments. Are we just going to leave them behind or something like that?
I mean,
is that kind of what happened?
And I think
because they don't deserve that either.
They don't, but we have to all agree. At the end of the day, and I'm 39 as of a few weeks ago.
Yeah, well, you're talking to two guys that are going to be literally Masters age next year.
So, but my question is, no one wants them left behind, clearly, but right now, is there or is there not two premier divisions, MPO and FPO? And I think the national tour in its infancy and when it existed and when it was born, that was its concern. MPO and FPO, the Pro Tour, MPO and FPO, the World Tour, MPO only. I think we see,
and that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying as far as tournament to tournament. I'm saying as their premier event, their World Championship. That's what I'm saying.
No, I hear you.
I'm not saying that when they're national tour and we have a Masters division, I'm not saying that they should get as much or more or whatever, but I'm saying if they're going to set aside their World Championships from ours and make it their premier event, how do they get less than when they were connected with us? And is that respectful or is it disrespectful? Or, it's just a question. I just don't know how to feel about it. And it's just one of those things that, like I said, it's tough. It's a tough thing, and it's just a question I felt like I wanted to know. And like you said, I didn't respond to anybody on it. I just kind of let it go.
You just lit the fire and ran. You're like, I don't know. I hear smoke alarms going off. I'm out of here.
No. Yeah, pretty much. Because I don't want to make anybody mad. I'm not. That's not what I'm here for. And
they're valid questions to be brought up.
The one thing I have a lot of respect for is the players before me, and especially, I can't get it across anymore. It's their premier event. It's their biggest thing that they have in their division, and I noticed that they got less than before. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, and I
Okay, so I just real quickly,
a
couple things that I'll just throw in there, and this isn't to refute you or to go tit for tat.
Sure.
But a few things worth noticing that I didn't research until literally seconds ago. For what it's worth, there were now I already forgot if it was 79 or 89 players in last year's. I can quickly. So there were 62 Masters.
Yeah, it was
playing.
Almost cut in half. I checked that out.
There was 62. I just want to confirm how many. Last year during the Masters Worlds, if I could do some quick research here, I want to double check. Okay, so there were, we'll call it 60 versus 80. There were 80 Masters in last year's Worlds, and there were 60 Masters in this year's Worlds. So for what it's worth, at $200 a piece times 20 people, that's roughly $4,000 in just sheer entry fees right off the bat. So that's one thing worth noting. But another thing I'll say, and this is to credit Dynamic Discs, they certainly went above and beyond last year in saying, we want one of the largest, at the time, the largest pro payouts ever in terms of the MPO division. They had the largest female payout ever in pro women's world championship titles. And so you saw a theme with them last year. I don't want to say did they set an unobtainable bar or they reached a new bar that we just couldn't keep up with, but they certainly, you have to tip your hat immediately to them. You can look and say, well, did the next guy fail, or did the previous person just shine harder? It could be one way to look at that. And then the other thing that I look at is, and we spoke of this earlier, I referenced it on the show. Next year, we're going to have 4 different world championships taking place. The Pro Open, the Amateurs, the Juniors, and then the Pro Masters, right? So 4 different weeks of world championships. And when we start talking about, people always say, where does my PDGA money go? This tournament director gives them thousands of dollars. Well, let's think about, when you're talking about 4 world championships, not even just payouts, you're talking about staffing and all the things that go along with then hosting a week-long event. And that's just the week that you're there. So those are things that I'm just trying to shed more light and throw it out there. And I'm not arguing in any way with you. Sure. But those are all things that I think need to be brought up and need to be part of the conversation. Because a lot of people say, well, I think so-and-so should get such and such. Really, that's, to me, some of that conversation is completely arbitrary. Because if I said to you, all right, Conrad took home $2,500 and Barry took home $3,000, the next guy, who may or may not have any idea what they're talking about, could say, man, the Pro Masters champ should have taken home $7,000 or $12,000 or $4,500. Like, those numbers are somewhat arbitrary at the end of the day, because you saw plenty of people saying, man, anything less than $10,000 is a spit in the face.
That's all I'm not comparing those things. I'm just saying they got less than when they were combined.
Correct.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we don't know all the numbers behind the scenes. We don't know the costs to rent courses or close courses, if that's the case, if there were less sponsorship, the fact that there's less players. There's a lot of things that go into that stuff that none of us know right now. We don't have those numbers in front of us, but it's a good argument and a good discussion to have brought up to see if we are, quote unquote, leaving them behind a little bit when we split it off. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but if we are, sorry. Well, I guess I kind of feel like most of those guys that we're talking about, the founders of our sport, had their limelight 10 years ago. And if now they need to step into the shadows a little bit while we have a new limelight, it's just the way things go. It's the cycle of the sport. Yes, for sure. You may have been one of the top 5 greatest players of all time 15 years ago, guys, but you're not that anymore, and you have to realize that 10 or 15 years ago, you weren't probably screaming that the Masters needed more, and now some of them are. So we'll get there. As the good old saying goes, a rising tide lifts all boats. So the more we get into the sport, the more it'll help everybody out.
It'll be interesting, and I guess, and I do and don't rely too much on golf analogies all the time. But if you're sitting down on a Saturday afternoon, what's more likely to be on TV? Is it going to be a regular stop at the PGA event, or is it going to be a regular stop at on the PGA Senior Tour? And unless you go seek out the Golf Channel, you're probably watching a regular stop on the PGA Tour, not necessarily. And this is no disrespect to these people, but as Johnny said,
of course not.
The limelight is shifting. And as hard as it is to swallow and to realize, because here's the problem. Our limelight 15 years ago was pretty tiny, right? And it was shining on someone. Now, 15 years later, the limelight's a little bigger, and now it's shining on someone else. That's what the shift is. It's not that much bigger, but now it's going to shine on someone else when it wasn't that bright in the first place. That can be kind of tough to swallow.
And as we... I could have made the same argument for the Open, of course.
Yep.
We split up from them. We got less too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
and at the end of the day, to me, the ultimate takeaway always comes back down to actual sponsors acquired. Because, and that may answer your question perfectly. Last year, Dynamic Discs may have went into their piggy bank, and I'm just speculating, may have went into their piggy bank and said, you know what, this year we're hosting the Worlds. Yeah, it's not in our best business decision, but we're going to throw an extra 30 grand into the purse. I'll make up a number. They may have done that. The Grand Rapids Club may have said, you know what, we've never seen 30 grand in the 20 years we've existed.
Yeah.
You know, so here's what we can add. And again, I'm just making up random numbers for random situations. But, you know, a lot of people say, well, look at the year the USDGC paid out 15 grand to Kenny that one particular year. What a lot of people forget is there was one silent sponsor that came along to Innova and said, hey, I'll throw you an extra 5 grand. The stipulation is you must give it away to first place. Well, when that sponsor didn't return the next year, guess what? That payout shot all the way back down.
7,500 or whatever it was.
Because they said, well, that's not what we're going to keep doing. So there's more to it.
Sure.
And that's what I want everyone to think about. Unfortunately, you know, you said it. No one's out to rip the Grand Rapids crew or the PDGA.
Of course not.
But it's a matter of, okay, how can we get to this consistency and then just maintain that consistency? And it's going to be tough.
No, Michigan's awesome, and I love going to Michigan and playing. I usually have 1 or 2 stops there a year, and they're always awesome, and they run great events and stuff like that. And like I said, if those people know me and they know that I'm not being disrespectful, I'm just asking a question. That's it. And
fair enough. And the last thing I'll say about your thread, it's not fair for Nate Heinold to get in there and say, well, at my event, Nate Heinold runs an event that is unlike any other on the planet. And I'm not saying he doesn't deserve his kudos, but he can't come into that thread and be like, well, I paid out this and Nate, that's because you give 3,000% of your time and energy and fundraising efforts, and you reach into the coffers. It's almost not fair. That's like it's like a major league player arguing with a kid. Yeah, well, I hit it 600 feet when I hit a home run, and the kid's sitting there with a wiffle ball bat. Well, yeah, you did. Good job. And again, that's only a kudos to Nate, but not a fair analogy when he tries to compare his event to the rest of the planet. And it's
I haven't really even looked at it. There's so many comments in there. I haven't really even looked. I just have. There's been several times where I've looked at the notifications and somebody just yelling at somebody, and I've thought about even taking it down.
You're like, I'll go get this extinguisher. I'll be right back. I lit this fire. I hear the siren.
I wish there was a way you could leave. You can't just leave posts up but turn the comments off. Like stop comments.
You can on I think
and notifications on your own.
Well, that you can do. I think you can turn off notifications on your own stuff, but
I'm not sure if you can. I know you can turn off comments within like groups.
Yeah.
And I think in like fan pages and whatnot, but I don't know if you can turn off comments on your own.
Because at some point you think, all right, this is devolving. I just want to stop the comments. I don't mind the ones that are there, but let's just end it. So, all right. So what's your schedule look like?
Yeah, I'm sure my post wasn't very. My posts have never been like very well thought out. I wasn't the most educated person. I didn't go to college like all those people, so I'm sure it's a little confusing. I mean. Sorry.
You wanted
Send
to
it to my
express
editor
it.
next time.
That's right.
No, I understand. You wanted to express it. You were coming from the heart. You don't mean any kind of disrespect, but on the flip side of that coin, you even you understand as well. Yeah, if the wrong person reads this with the wrong tone, they could take offense to it, and there was some of that as well.
Of course.
So
what's your practice schedule look like for the upcoming weekend?
Yeah, we're leaving tomorrow morning. Not exactly sure when we'll get there, but yeah, 1 practice round tomorrow. Should be enough, and then wake up early, play another practice round the next day, and I should be ready.
Okay.
Nothing crazy.
No.
Easy peasy. What?
And like you guys said, I've played the courses before, so
yeah,
it's not like be seeing something I haven't seen yet.
So that was going to be that was kind of where I was going to go with it. Is there a section of the course? Are there any particular holes that you may try and be like, I feel like last time I was here, I really struggled on, 7, 8, and 9. I'm going to go practice those a little harder and dial them in. Is there anything like that out there?
No, I'm excited to play there, man. I remember having a blast, and what was 2015? 2015, yep. I remember having a blast playing the Worlds there. I played really well at Moraine Park. In fact, I was leading after the first round with a 55, and that was the new course record until Macbeth came in and shot back-to-back 51. So
stumped through it, taking down trees.
It was crazy. I remember coming in with the 55 and thinking that I was going to be leading, and then I was leading, and then for him to go 51-51 really blew my mind.
Damn it, the other Paul, as I referred to him this weekend. So Matt Pipke does ask a really good question out here. First, I want to thank Nathaniel Duddle for the super chat. But Matt asks, would you ever go back and watch any old footage of yourself playing there? Would you do it for any reason, whether you played well or not? Would you ever go seek out, an old Disc Golf Guy video blog or an old Central Coast video from a couple years ago and take a look at it?
Yeah, I watch all kinds of videos. I was saying with my buddy, Sam this week, and we pulled up the Moraine footage from Paul. I think it was Will, Nico, Ricky, that video, just to kind of watch it and get a heads up what we're getting ourselves into and stuff. And yeah, I do that all the time.
Okay. And are you looking for? What are you looking for in those? Just a course refresher, maybe, or anything specific?
No, I'm just entertained by it. I love watching disc golf and watching that. But yeah, for sure. I mean, remembering the holes. I mean, seeing the way Paul played them, you can definitely probably learn something from watching his 51s. Mm-hmm. He left a few out there too. That's the one thing I kind of keyed in on watching it yesterday. Is he didn't play perfect. He played damn near perfect, but he still missed I think he missed 2 putts, and he missed the last hole. So
wow,
it's doable. That just reminds me that it's doable, that it's not just like he was unconscious and just destroying everybody, which he did, but that doesn't necessarily mean nobody else can do it. So that's my kind of style of course. I expect to play really well this weekend. I expect to have at least one low round, especially with the way that I've been playing. So
is 3 rounds the sweet spot? Is that just the right amount, or would you, or next week we go to Vibram, which is 4 rounds?
I'm loving the 3 rounds because with how much golf we've been playing lately, like the less rounds the better to me. I'm feeling, especially going into the 4-round tournament, Vibram. I'm excited to play the 1-day event in Nantucket, just for the rest aspect. Mm-hmm. It's a lot playing over and over and over. You get 2 days off, and then you're playing practice round, another practice round, and it's almost like a 6-round event. And towards the end of the season, you're just aware of body. I know I'm feeling it for sure.
Well, I said that as we open the show. There's a lot of golf. People may think, we're moving into the school year starting and everything else. There is a ton of golf. I think I'm going to see you the next 4 or 5 weekends out on that East Coast,
right,
on that side of the country, and lots of high-level stuff, and then a brief break before the USDGC, and then the wrap-up of the Pro Tour and the wrap-up of the National Tour at the Hall of Fame. So it's exhausting kind of just thinking about it.
Yeah, it's going to be, we say it every week, it's going to be a crazy finish, lots and lots of golf. I'm trying to ice every night just to, kind of stay healthy. I mean, I guarantee by the end of this tour, there's going to be somebody who's not going to be able to play from injury, because it's just that much. It's that grueling. It's that many rounds. You're throwing pretty much as hard as you can on all those shots. These courses are not small by any means. It's just the life of the touring pro.
And speaking of touring pros, a name we mentioned earlier in the show for not being there this last weekend at Idlewild, and he seemed to be a somewhat of a last-minute withdrawal because he was going to be on the featured card first day. Any of the whereabouts without of Nico? Did you know injury or a mental breakdown? I don't want to say breakdown, a mental break or anything like that.
He has a breakdown every other hole, so I don't think that.
I was not at all. I was going to say a mental break.
Tournament. No, I think he's a little burnt out. I spoke to him briefly before the Idlewild tournament, and he just told me he was a little burnt out and he needed a break. And I'm not so sure what he's doing, but hopefully everything's good. I know he was spending a lot of time with his family, getting in touch with his brother and stuff like that. So hopefully they're doing something fun. And yeah, we can't wait to see him back. I mean, I know everybody loves to watch him, and he has a huge following on tour. So hopefully he's not injured. Hopefully he's just taking a break.
Okay. Yeah, it's. I hope all just the same. I know Steve Dodge had a brief conversation with him, and I didn't really follow up to find out any of the details. And hopefully everything's good, and we'll see him back out there. We know he's always a fierce competitor out on the tour. So,
well, we're gonna get wrapping up here real quick, but I just want to give everyone an update for Uli's picks for last week at Idlewild. I scored, what does it look like, 364 points this past week by picking Paul, Dutch, and Zach with Paige and Jessica Weiss. Uli scored 390 points.
Wow.
So that's 30 points more than me. Congratulations. By picking Macbeth, Conrad, Coling himself, Paige and Michelle Frazier.
Wow, I like where this is going.
And then Terry Miller scored 20 more points.
Damn!
With 411. By picking Paul, Michael Joe, Paul, James Conrad, Jessica Weiss, and Lisa Fakis. So congratulations, Terry. You took this week down.
Say it again.
Congratulations, Terry. You took this week down.
Again.
Oh, well, yeah. Good call, yeah.
Well, how do they do that at the UFC? And reigning? Is that what they say? And still? Is that how it goes? Something like that, Yuli? When someone wins? Again? Defends a title?
So yeah, so we looked at Ledgestone and that, and yes, you are doing fairly well overall.
If
Terry.
2 for 2 is fairly well, then I guess so.
Yep. I feel sorry for anyone that did happen to pick Nico, but it doesn't look like a lot of them did. So
I'll admit, I think in one or two of the leagues, I thought I might have picked him. I was unsure.
I did, not in Yuli's picks, but I picked him in another league. So, but whatever. This is the one that I care about right now.
I quit picking in all the other leagues.
Yeah.
Well, you might as well quit in this one, too.
It's a long season, man.
It really is. And people, I get, people complain when there's not, like football, obviously you play for 17 or 18 weeks, or depending on how you're doing it, whatever, 16, 15. And this, I feel bad. It's only 21 weeks, but we go a couple weeks without picking at times. And it feels like a long, and when you're in 3 or 4 or 5 different leagues, it wears, which is why I'm glad I always just hit the little check boxes when I can to say just put these in all my leagues, and then some of them work and some of them don't. So
Nathaniel Duddle. Sorry if we're mispronouncing that. Again, another super chat. I'm not sure if you had a question or not, but thanks again. We recognize the super chat and we appreciate it. All right, Yuli. Well, we can cut you loose. We just want to make sure that we know who won. Which I had
Everybody
no idea.
Get out there, make your picks for the Pittsburgh event. We're going to take Terry down here, slap him around a little bit.
2 for 2. I love that I'm back in it. It's really a shame that I ever
You're
left.
welcome. It was.
He likes to be back.
Me and Johnny really giving you a chance.
Yeah.
Now that
we've sucked him back in, we can continue to beat him down.
And I'm not sure if that was supposed to be a dramatic. Oh, there you're back. All right. I was gonna say, was that his way of trying to drop a mic? But nonetheless, buddy, I'm looking forward to. I'll see you Friday mid morning or afternoon. I'll see you out there on the course and shoot well. And we're looking forward to seeing another great weekend out of you, buddy.
All right, guys.
All right.
See you next week.
See ya. Have a good night.
Sounds great.
Later.
All right. See you Friday. Peace.
Yep. Peace.
All right.
All right, again, Paul Ulibarri, he's becoming more and more regular, and he's regularly finishing up near the top. So call it a correlation, call it what you will.
In this case, correlation does equal causation.
So we'll go with
versa.
it. Glad to have him. All right. I don't know that I have a heck of a lot more here for what's our quote-unquote regular show. I don't know if I have too much for our after show. But I think we can start wrapping things up.
I'm good with that.
We saw you talking to Uli about his post, which, like I said, lit a few fires, was something I wanted to certainly address. So I'm glad we could get that in there and get his take on it. Again, it's a debate that will rage on and on. To me, when I just look at those numbers that he mentioned, I understand it was less money, but there was almost $4,000 less in the pool. And so I don't know if that's a fair comparison right off the bat when you say, well, he won less. Well, there was a lot less there to be won.
There's a ton of variables that we don't know about, and we're not positive, and we can speculate all we want. But usually, when we speculate, there's always something wrong with whatever we're speculating with. So I think it's best if we just assume that there.
I don't think I'm wrong.
I think there are necessarily things you don't know.
You can think that. You could be wrong, too. The question, from the Super Chat was if Big Germ changes putt. And the one round I watched him, I didn't notice anything different. If it wasn't substantial from what I've seen in the past. So that's the answer I can give on that. If he did, I would consider it very very subtle at most. I don't know if there's any real change in his putt there. So sorry if we missed that, if that was a question for Uli. But all right, we're going to wrap it up here on a regular show. Stick around for the after show, of course, because we have giveaways. In fact, tonight...
Giveaways.
If I could just reach my little...
Get your short little stubby arms.
Arms that way. I've got a Ledgestone Edition Nuke Jawbreaker, which we can put up there. It's a very beautiful disc. And then also, and sometimes when you buy enough stuff from me regardless, sometimes these get thrown in as a bonus, but you're going to get one here today. I've got, thanks to my buddy Miles over at Paragon, I have printed up some nice little Disc Golf Guy towels, some little microfiber towels. So you'll get one of those as well along with the Nuke. All right, so that'll be given away. Oh, and a baggie is included. Okay. Safely shipped to you.
Is that Ziploc? It doesn't look.
It's
Ziploc.
Not a Ziploc name brand. Absolutely not.
Cheap son of a.
Yeah,
all right.
These fit way better. That's why. So
that's fine.
I'd like to go ahead and thank Dana Vicich for joining us tonight, giving us his insights from around the Disc Golf Tour, the Pro Tour, and the PDGA Tour, of course. I'd also like to thank Paul Ulibarri for joining us, and we're looking forward to seeing some great, solid play out of him this upcoming weekend. For Johnny V and myself, Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy, and all of the amazing crew and staff over at Idlewild, who we just can't thank enough for a great weekend. We'll see you guys in the after show. Stick around, and we'll give away some stuff when you step inside the Smashbox.
Thank you to our $2 and above patrons. Your name is listed below in the video credits. If you're interested in being listed as a producer on SmashBoxxTV's podcast, please visit patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the SmashBoxxTV podcast 157 after show. We're here for it, and immediately I got to send a comment out to Dan Horwat. Sorry, Dan, if I didn't pronounce that correctly, who's helping out as part of the Pittsburgh Flying Disc Open this weekend. Super excited to be in Pittsburgh. The PDGA National Tour is moving into town, playing the one round at Moraine State Park for the weekend. We're going to see a few different pin positions. If you want to know as to what people like Paul Ulibarri think of some pins, log into our regular podcast, which you may have already listened to, but Paul discusses events that change up pin positions and events that have multiple courses and you can hear a little insight from him. But I'm excited to be out there. Look to the Disc Golf Guys channel for the lead card of women. I think I've jumped on that idea of running out, capturing the lead card of women for the weekend. I think you're going to see Jomez on the men's lead card. If I can get any other bonus footage, it would come out way after the event. But my main focus will be next day lead card women's footage. So one thing I'll go ahead and touch on real quickly, and I haven't seen too much response on it, but this last major assignment of mine before Idlewild was going to cover the Pro Masters divisional doubles in Grand Rapids. That took place on August 12th. I got pretty much all of the editing done relatively quickly, but then I delayed it a little because I went back, and on each of the 2 rounds, I put out a commentary track on them. So I really just watched the video. I got a fancy microphone all hooked up, kind of did that whole thing.
So it wasn't Steve Dodge's microphone.
No, it was not. And I just did single-person commentary straight through. I'm interested to hear some feedback. And then I released the videos in the style that we'll say round 1, front and back 9 with commentary was released a few hours before the exact same version without commentary was released. And I don't know if I'm going to let numbers really dictate one way or another. I don't think that's a good test.
Wait, so you released 2 versions of it?
I literally released 8 videos.
Yeah.
8 videos, front
With
and back
and without.
9, with and without commentary for 1 and 2 rounds. 8 different videos. And for what it's worth, uploading 8 videos on a mediocre
that's a problem.
on a mediocre internet connection in and itself takes a few hours actually of dicking around, as I like to say. So it's single person commentary. It's just me. Here's my immediate takeaway for those that did pay attention or did or didn't like it. If I know I'm going to do commentary on stuff moving forward, I will likely edit it a little differently. I'll give it a little bit more room to breathe, as we say. Let a few shots go a little bit longer. So if you're talking about things, you're not just like, oh, Paige pierced through. Oh, now that's Lisa that's throwing. You can give it a little bit more time to breathe, so to speak. So I'd be interested to know what the feedback is. I'm going to try and catch up on some of the comments on the board. I think some of you guys are the ones that have consumed it already. So I would love to know what you guys thought of it. The audio quality, all that kind of stuff. There's a couple different ways to go about it. And in the future, I hope to improve on it. So,
well, that's interesting. It gives people a lot of options so that they can consume it the way they want.
Correct.
And
yes.
It's a little bit more work for you.
Yeah, and that doesn't even bother me. I just hope people realize that there's the options out there, the commentary version and the non-commentary version.
You should make sure to, on your YouTube, put one of those little cards or something that pops up at the beginning and says, if you prefer a non-commentary version, and one of those annotations, they can click on it.
That'd be a very clever idea.
If you hate the sound of my voice, if you think I'm annoying, if you hate me for any reason, if I've offended you,
just stick around because you're going to get it again.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, just leave it up to the whole thing. So at any point, just leave it. Have it change once in a while. Have I offended you yet?
Click yes. Click here. Well, anyway, that is all out there. So first round was modified best shot. Second round was modified alternate shot. So all 8 of those videos. And then the bonus. The bonus footage is the mixed doubles playoff. And that takes place with Jamie Letts, Courtney McCoy, Barry Schultz, Aaron Oakley. That's out there as well as a separate video. So 9 separate videos were all uploaded within the last few days for you guys to enjoy. So,
cool.
And I'm excited to go cover the women this weekend. To watch every single shot that's thrown to then determine who's champion, there's something fulfilling or gratifying within me. Because you know the entire story. You know the look of excitement or disappointment when so-and-so hit a tree on hole 9, but then watch them hit the 70-footer on hole 14. And to be able to consume every moment of an entire event that way, I get really excited about that kind of stuff. So look for that this weekend.
Well, speaking of some coverage, obviously we did the Idlewild this weekend, and as I said, I bumped up the quality so hopefully it looks a little nicer. But that also helps out the smash cut that we do. It's kind of funny, and I don't really care that much. Clearly I care a little bit because I'm bringing it up. I find it really funny that I upload the video, and I usually get it up by about 8:30 to 9 at some point. And inevitably, like the first 3 or 4 comments are like, "Great job, Terry! Way to get this up so fast!"
Boom, boom, boom.
Because they obviously don't realize that you're on site and I'm cutting it together,
or that I'm everywhere,
or that you're everywhere. So I'm just like, "Urgh." And then I hear people be like, "Yeah,
why'd they cut it off mid-sentence?"
You can hear him like, "Oh, you need to cut it a little sooner," because you hear him say, "Now let's throw it to the women." And half the time when I'm cutting it, I don't even listen to it.
Sure.
I was able to cut. I tried 2 different ways this past weekend. I did the smash cut where basically once they start driving, I let all 4 players drive. I don't make any cuts. Just say, all right, screw it. It's just a little quicker for me rather than making 5 more cuts in the thing to take out the time between it. Usually it's about 2 minutes it takes from the first to the last person.
Yep.
When I did that for the first 2 rounds, those videos were about 70 minutes long, the smash cut. When I decided the 3rd round I was going to cut out all that extra time, and I was a little bit more precise with my cuts. Like I cut a lot of walking to baskets and things like that. The only thing I didn't cut, I believe, is that last shot with Paul and James. I wanted a little bit of drama there. I got it down to 50 minutes. I cut 20 full minutes out of the smash cut by just trimming all the drives. So
Correct,
I think I'm going to end up doing that because I want it to be as concise as possible. But I do hear people complain all the time, like, "Yeah, you're cutting off what he's saying, and this is horrible. Well, the commentary is awful." I'm going to Jomez, and I just chuckle at that one. I'm like,
we need to have a default opening that you
there
play
is.
at the. No, I know you have
like video of us,
even
like
a video opening of hey everyone,
too lazy.
This is a smash cut.
Don't care.
It's not going to make a lot of sense.
I don't care that much because literally it's just out there so people can consume it as fast as they want, and then they don't have to wait for either another 24 or 48 hours to whenever Jomez can pound through that stuff. So I always get a kick out of some of the comments, and I laugh because sometimes I do listen and I try to trim off when you say let's take a look at the women, but there's a lot of times your sentence will run on for 12 seconds. Like, all right, there's a good putt by Paul McBeth. We're going to do this and this and this, and then we're going to let's get the women as Paul's putting out. So it's like, I can't cut it because Paul's putting out. You're talking up until the second he puts out, and then we throw it to a commercial, and that's what I chop out. So it's just like, I don't care that much, but I get a kick out of it. Lots of fun.
Well, thank you guys. Seems like a lot of comments. Of course, people, full credit to Johnny. Even if I do 98% of the work out in the field, Johnny sits at a computer and he does put that smash cut together. And clearly some people are very much enjoying it.
Yeah.
It's great that there's options. If people, and you've said it and we continue to say it, if people want to go see, if the 4 hours isn't good for you, no problem. If the 50 minutes isn't good for you and it's all chopped up, no problem. Just wait another 12 hours and you're going to see a absolutely beautiful, pristine, gorgeous,
with
version.
Pro commentary.
With pro commentary, with all the amazing graphics and edits all put in there from Jomez. I mean, it's really just a lot of options, and you can go by whatever you want.
Yeah, and as Tyler says, if you don't like it, watch something else and it'll be there. The other thing I did this past weekend, speaking of media, for the after the final day, I threw together a highlight video, so to speak, where when I'm sitting in front of this little switching machine, there's a button I can push for instant replay that'll take a 5, 10, or 20-second clip. So if someone has a really good drive, I'll usually hit the 20-second or 10-second clip, and I might trim it up a little bit. If someone has a pretty cool putt, it's usually a 5 to 10-second clip. I took all of those, I put them in order from first to last round and then in order. So you might see the very first shot, I think, is hole 3 of day 1 from Paul McBeth hitting a putt or missing a putt or something. And then it goes through, and it was probably about 6 probably 6 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes. I don't even know because it renders so fast. I threw that together and put our really cheesy replay music behind it. Steve Dodge seemed to like that. He was a fan. He's like, next time you do that, please just let me know so we can link it to the website. And I was like, oh, that's great. So I think I might do that at the after I do the Smash Cuts at the end of each weekend, or I'll just throw together, and I call it a highlight round. And someone complained like, hey, I know Paul McBeth's great and everything, but why'd you show a miss putt? And granted, it might not be when someone misses a slam dunk, is that a highlight? Or is that I mean, that's my thought. Like when you watch Paul dink a 20-footer, that's not common. And so in my mind, I capture that shot specifically because I think, all right, A, I want access to that later. B, it changes the game a little bit. It changes the whole round for some people. And it's more or less a significant shot reel rather than a highlight reel. I'm just calling it highlight reel because that is
significant shot reel. I
think it
rolls
ring.
Off the tongue though. I would go with that. Potentially crucial or critical moments and significant shots reel.
Exactly.
Just release that instead of highlight reel.
Game changing reel.
Yeah.
So that's why people will see missed putts, rollaways, great shots, bad shots. If it was clearer, I would have shown the shot of the guy getting hit in the face with the disc and spitting out blood. So that was but you couldn't see it in our angle. So yeah, exactly. There's highlights and lowlights. I call it Scott says call it a recap, but it's not really a recap. It's literally like 30 to 35 shots. I kind of think of a recap as a little bit more encompassing of an event, like you're talking about the summary. This is just look at these 30 cool shots or unique shots. So we'll see. Maybe I'll come up with something better.
Well, I want to say I ran into Zach Pajek. He won a couple weeks ago, or 1 or 2 weeks ago, and thanks to Jim, we were able to actually, long story short, we got him his Patreon disc. So, Zach, thanks for hanging out. It was good talking to you. I'm glad you could be there. What I would say, the conversation that's going on the board right now is about some of the players and instances where they took all of or more than their 30 seconds. And I'll be the first to say, if you take 29.99 seconds on every single throw of the round, I'm okay with that because that's within the rules. I would get annoyed and wish you'd hurry up, but I'm still good with it because it's within the rules. The question really that talks about it is where it seems to get a little laxed occasionally is if a particular player finds themselves in a very awkward stance or position or exceptionally challenging spot. And then, fair or not, there's almost this unwritten rule of, like, okay, they're taking a little bit more time. It's clearly a tough shot. Still technically against the rules, but that seems to happen. And if that happens once or twice during a round, I'd say that's commonplace. Paul McBeth sometimes may go over his 30 seconds if he's in a really tough position. And Joe Schmo, the 910 rated player in Open, may go over his 30 seconds. And if you're not habitual with it, if it's not a regular thing, it's usually overlooked as no big deal. That guy's in a horrible spot. I'm not going to add insult to injury and get on him about it because he's taken 44 seconds versus 30. Now, on the flip side of that, if you are taking 35 or 40 or 45 or 60 seconds almost every time, that's when somebody for sure needs to be calling you on it. Someone said on the board, why does it matter? It matters because it's obnoxious to the group. It's breaking a rule. And what if you're on the opposite end of that spectrum and you're a really fast player? You're now getting your flow interrupted because someone else is technically breaking the rules. So that's why it matters to me. Again, the once a round, a little extra time kind of thing, I think is always overlooked. And I'm, fair or not, I'm okay with that. It's just, I call it a gentlemanly thing or a sportsman-like thing. Yeah. Someone recognizes you are in a horrible spot. I'm not about to bust you out because you took 44 seconds. But if you're doing it every hole,
and And I'll say,
speed up. Maybe you'll quit throwing in the shul as much. Speed your play up and throw a little bit faster.
I'm going to mention Chris Dickerson.
Okay.
Because he pump fakes a lot.
Sure, but still within his time.
But within his time, so it makes
if he wants to pump fake.
No, so that's what I'm saying is it makes people feel like it's a little longer. And there were some times he was a little over, but there was a few players that we had that issue with. But if you notice with Chris, sometimes he almost fakes out our cameraman because he does a couple pump fakes, and that to some people I think can make it feel like, oh my God, come on, dude, throw already. So that might be another aspect of what people are seeing.
Well, and some people are saying the pump fakes, drive you crazy. Some people would talk about Jeff Bennett, who pump fakes a number of times, who I saw for the first time in quite some time this weekend.
I saw him on the list. And
I don't care about those. Your idiosyncrasies are yours, and if they're within your time limits, I don't care what you do. If you want to butter a loaf of bread in your 30 seconds and butter literally every single piece of bread, I don't care. But I want you to throw when your 30 seconds is exhausted or just before that. The question on the board, and the best way to really would be to quote it from the PDGA, but the question is, when does your 30 seconds start? And without reading it verbatim, it's essentially when when it's your turn and you are free from distraction. And we all know somebody could try and get a little nitpicky as to when they're free from distractions. But when it's clear of distractions and it's your turn, that's essentially when your time starts. And we could go back and look, and I could provide you plenty of examples of people that exceed this 30 seconds. The question is it habitual? Is it something you do 10 times in a round, or did you do it that one time because you had the really poor lie? So, yes, and as you mentioned a moment ago, unfortunately, someone did catch one in the face this weekend.
In the face.
Right in the face. On what hole was that? It's the one with the Y and the double Mando.
14?
No. It's earlier than 14.
Is it?
I don't recall the whole number.
Anyway, one of the players threw, it hyzered out, it kissed off a tree, and the guy apparently never saw it coming. It got him right in the mush. All I could kind of see was the guy. I couldn't see the disc actually hit him, but you see how he reacts. He more or less takes something, puts it up to his mouth, whether it was a towel or something, and I guess he was bleeding pretty good. So it hit him in the lip. I think it split his lip wide open is what it did. So just as always, keep your head on a swivel if you're out there. We love the spectators, but as you all know, just like in any major league sport, maybe not football, but you really kind of need to be watching your environment, whether it's baseball, NASCAR, hockey.
You could get a puck to the face.
Yeah, I mean, you just be aware of where you're at. These things, they do hurt. We've all, if you've been playing for a significant amount of time, you've been hit by a disc somehow. Hopefully not in the face, but so just realize where you're at.
Yeah, and to his credit, he was in an OB territory when he got hit in the face.
He
was in an OB, and not saying that. I mean, it does make it better, I guess. I will say that.
Well,
I'd rather
better for
him
the sport.
Well, I'd rather him. He was standing in an out of bounds area, not ideally where someone wants to be throwing in the first place, and then it took a bad ricochet off a quick reaction to take one in the face. That's very different than someone standing out in the fairway and taking one. So, yes, and they couldn't see, no one could see, and that it was just a really unfortunate situation. That disc came in, it hit, it ricocheted. Yeah. It is what it is. So
exactly. All right,
and someone said, well. Someone had posted about it. Super, as in Dave from out in California, had referenced it on Facebook, and I think pulled up the Jomez footage or whatever, and maybe referenced it or something.
Can you see it much better in the Jomez footage?
I don't know if it was the Jomez footage or ours, honestly, but he referenced it and talked about it, and he said something or other, and I said, yeah, I knew it happened. I just chose not to elaborate on it too much. It was one of those situations where we could dwell on it. It wasn't overly positive. I didn't have all of the details, and I didn't, had it happen right next to me, then maybe I would have elaborated a little bit more. But I was like, I don't really know what's going on, and frankly, I don't want anyone to get sued. So let's move on.
Elephantricity says, yes, you can see it in the Jomez footage. I didn't know where the Jomez second camera was, so I couldn't see. I know where our guy was, but that's why I asked. So let's give something away.
All righty. Well, that's something I mentioned in our regular show will, in fact, be a 2017 Ledgestone Jawbreaker Nuke.
Oh, that's...
So we'll give that away.
I like how that feels.
It's got a good feeling to it. And then also a disc golf guy towel, microfiber towel. A little lower. Oh, yeah. You could feel that. So
it feels nice, but it's got that silly logo on it.
Oh, yeah. It's so pretty. Look at that.
Yeah.
And then... Included
the plastic baggie.
Is a plastic bag.
All right, so I'd like to thank. We have a couple new patrons this week, and 1 or 2 people actually bumped up their pledges, so I really, really appreciate that. We have 154 people right now. I'm going to sort it by...
shoe size.
No, I'm going to sort it by address, which I've never done before. So
living large here.
Yeah, so there's really no rhyme or reason. There's half the people have an address, so it's sorted by that, and then everybody else is underneath of there, and that's sorted by first name if you don't have an address listed. So I'm going to going to my random.org and not a dating site, and 1 in 154. The number is 17. So somebody with an address.
She's only 17.
Byron Allen. So congratulations, Byron Allen. You will be receiving out of California. No, I'm sorry, Alberta, Canada. I'm sorry, I saw the CA. I thought it was California. Hey. Alberta, Canada, A. Thank you. He's a $3 on a show sponsor. So we truly appreciate your sponsorship.
We like you more than the $1 people.
We love everybody. Just as I said on the broadcast.
We like you 3 times more.
We like you. We love everybody. We like some people a little more.
No. We appreciate all of the support, regardless of where it comes from.
So congratulations, Byron. I'll send you an email. You'll hopefully get that shortly. If half the time most people aren't watching, so I spoil it for them when I send them an email. But if I don't send it now, I'll forget. So
thank you very much, Byron. You have the address right there, actually?
It is. I just always verify that that's the correct address.
Certainly, but go ahead. Yeah, send that to me, and I'll get some stuff out. Disc golf nerd, you never win. Well,
you're a winner at life.
These aren't for winners? I don't know how that goes. All right. Other things going on in the news of the world of disc golf. I felt like it was exciting having everything at Idlewild.
I think, and I'll say this, I think Discraft missed the boat on re-releasing a limited edition Eclipse this week.
That's true.
Like, there was a couple funny things that they did with the Eclipse over the sun. I think a really cool thing would have been, like, for the last 2 weeks or something, a limited edition Z Eclipse. See if you can...
Jawbreaker Eclipse.
Whatever.
Z.
Z, I think, is usually more of their limited edition stuff, but whatever. Just having that, and I don't know if you could even bring up the old mold, if it would still work, or even just get one and put a stamp on it, an Eclipse stamp on something, an Eclipsed stamp nuke. I don't know, but just bring that out. Have a real limited edition. I think that would have been something really cool if they could have done. They pushed a little social media stuff, but that physical kind of really cool, and they'll get another chance in 7 years in the U.S. But I think they kind of missed the boat just a little bit on that. Just saying.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. They, however, on the flip side of that, I recently spoke with Bob Giulio, and I was just kind of looking at the last few assignments I've done, the next few coming up. I looked at seeing that, of course, at AM Worlds, that was the presenting or the main title sponsor, I guess, is maybe the way you could put it, being Discraft. I saw then I worked with them to go cover the final round at the Des Moines Challenge, a big A tier. They, of course, are the presenting sponsor of the Green Mountain Championships, as they have been for the last few years. But then on top of it, also this weekend in Pittsburgh, another national tour event. So if you look at it, I don't know. I love how much and in how involved Discraft has been. A lot of people have said, well, I don't feel like they're putting as much into it as others. I feel like they're putting possibly even more into it these days than anyone else. And it's just awesome. We love seeing all the companies involved and battling it out for title or presenting sponsorship rights. And just a hats off to Discraft. And it seems like a lot of things I know I've been involved with lately have had their name on it. And certainly appreciate them and the support they're giving to the game. So, excuse me. Zach, have a good night. It was a pleasure meeting you at Idlewild, so thank you very much. Good to see you. Good to meet you. All right. Discraft should release a jawbreaker. Jawbreaker? Maybe for the guy that took it in the face the other day.
Good call.
And so, yeah, and then now the board is talking about some of the opportunities that Discraft has that they can be making on social media, and I think you're going to see that continue to evolve, and maybe I can even, can help with some of that stuff as we're a little bit more on the ground week in and week out with some of these players and some of the things that are going on. So I'd like to see more stuff unfold over the next few weeks for sure.
Yeah, because this was an opportunity. You don't want to promote like the typhoon, the old school typhoon, when there's a natural disaster. But the eclipse, so cool. So I hope everyone got out there and burnt their retinas out or whatever. So
Brad says that they should have a cart, a bag, and another overstable driver. I can immediately address the bag. I mean, they recently had teamed up with Grip to produce the Nate and the Val bags, and I don't think they're that interested in promoting and creating their own bag. I think they're more likely to partner with somebody and brand a bag rather than do something on their own. But at least the high-end bags. Another overstable distance driver, sure. I mean, I think they've got lots of overstable stuff. But if you think they are missing something or there's then that's fine. And maybe you're right. Maybe they need something that is overstable to 300 feet, then suddenly flips over. I don't know how discs work these days. So, Luke asks if filming and media gives me a new perspective on how you evaluate and look at a course and hole, and the answer is absolutely. There is no doubt about it. I now have to be concerned about a lot of other things that we may or may not have to think about moving forward as a sport. Here's a classic example. Last year when I had visited Vision Quest for the first time, and they had this skins match, which is out on my channel and was very well received, Vision Quest was saying, hey, we have this tower over here, and we expect that cameramen can get up there and can view 3 or 4 or 5 holes at a time from this one tower that's positioned in the back half of the course. Those are the types of things that we have to think about. And you see these highly rated courses, and I'll throw out a Rolling Ridge here in Wisconsin, but some of these courses are really, really challenging to film. And, Christy said it earlier, nobody loves to see the big Heiser Fest without trees, but at the same time, some courses are way easier to film than others are. Idlewild with 2 cameras, I think we were able to do it justice. Not every course, you can be, the same could be said. And it'll be interesting being out at Moraine this weekend and seeing how challenging that course is, but in the woods, and can 1 or 2 cameras do it justice? So those are all things that we'll have to think about as we move forward. The amount of brush, how much, where will spectators stand? Where will spectators be siphoned through, I guess, or funneled through is maybe a better word. Out at Idlewild, there was a few spots where we just had to say, or the staff had to say, all right, spectators, you can't come to this tee area. You need to go to the green. Or, hey, stand down for this hole, catch these guys on the next hole. Mm-hmm. That was one of the tiny drawbacks because it's such a great, tightly wooded course with these little lines, narrow lines. There wasn't room for certain spectators on certain holes. So that's probably a long-winded answer, but yeah, those things all have to be considered now.
And I was saying after watching
and cell signal,
after watching Idlewild, and I think that jumps into probably one of my top 3 events to broadcast. I think the course is good. It's a really tough course, and you can see these players really struggle, and you see some of them really excel. Obviously, the cell signal is fantastic, and I didn't notice a ton of backups from when we were filming. I mean, there was a little bit of slowdown, but there wasn't. We never once walked up on a hole, and I was like, "Oh God, there's a 2 group backup here," And then, there's, the third card's playing right now. Okay, let's find a way to fill some time and then show them and wait. There was none of that. So I thought the flow of the course moved pretty well, and that we're getting better with that with the Pro Tour. We were just talking about how the Vibram is going to spread out the last few groupings a little more in order to help make that flow. And that's part of the advantage of making it up there, that you might be able to get through the course more steadily as opposed to shooting not so hot and end up in the middle of the pack. So I think that it works out Idlewild very well, and I really do hope, and I think they're going to be back, but I really hope they're back. From my understanding, the volunteers were great. They said they had like 25 out of 26 cards covered for volunteers, and I've got no complaints about this entire past weekend. So I'm really looking forward already to next year.
It was a pleasure, and that's a conversation that I had with Steve Dodge earlier today, which is we want to get all these top players, we want to have big events, but there is something to be said about the flow of those events. And when you have an 8-minute tee time or a 10-minute tee time or 12 minutes, whatever it might be, that gives you a better chance for these groups to get stacked up, and then all of a sudden you get to a hole, and we've experienced it far too many times, unfortunately. You get to a hole and there's 4 groups. And we're all standing around, and we're like, do we go catch the 4th card? Do we hang out here on the 2nd card or the 1st card? Are we going to play commercials for a half an hour? Like, what are the things we can do to keep the broadcast running smoothly? And there's never, like, a perfect answer. We're not the PGA. We don't have 18 camera crews on 18 different holes, so you could just cut to a different one. And you can't just say, oh, well, just pick up and move for an hour. Like, that's not always possible as well. So those are all things that go into flow, that go into media, that go into course design, and sometimes just how the course plays. When you have a hole that 10% of the field thinks they can reach the green and they need to be held up versus the 90% who can't and are ready to throw, like, there's just a lot of things that can really factor in as to how things flow. And a player's flow hurts our flow and vice versa.
I was just thinking, you were talking about filling time. This was one of the first times that we've had an actual weather delay and not just a flat cancellation. Normally, we've seen, we ended up getting delayed and then it just cancels. But this time we filled an hour on our first day with a rain delay.
Yeah, I feel like a few years ago we may have had a brief delay, possibly, or we just filmed right through the rain. I think actually at Vibram.
Yeah, we filmed right through the rain,
and it wasn't enough to pull off the course.
Yeah, and it was.
It was last year's. Was that Worlds or was that Glass Blown? I think that was Glass Blown, where we had a huge delay, and we were out at Jones East, and I remember standing underneath a shelter.
Yeah.
And then we ultimately resumed. I don't recall if that was Worlds or Glass Blown, but either way, that kind of sucked. But yeah, you're right.
We don't run into it very often, and we ended up. Thankfully, it was only in quotes an hour. We filled with basically we showed all the FPO, so we kind of spoiled that for everybody. We still ended up showing it between the holes too, because we need that filler for those that maybe didn't hang around for it. And then I just started showing the highlight clips, kind of the thing I put together, which is actually what made me think of throwing that highlight package together. I was like, well, I've got all these highlights from all these different events. Each one runs about 8 to 10 minutes. The longer we delay, the more I'll just go, the further back I'll go in the Pro Tour archives. So I thought we were able to recover, and it wasn't too bad. I mean, it sucked, period. We know that, but it wasn't as bad as it could have been.
Yeah. Well, believe it or not, I think we've learned a thing or two throughout all these years.
What?
As crazy as that might sound. Brad says that filming the women and putting in the women's coverage is the smartest thing you've done since talking smack to the players while they're playing. I try not to do too much of that. There's people that ask for it. Jeremy Coling he's really the guy that asks for a smart ass remark or two, because usually he opens with one.
Oh yeah, he'll steps up.
He'll come to me and I'll be standing there holding the mic talking about something.
Well, that's the dumbest thing you've said this week.
Yeah, he'll lean over my shoulder and chime in. And I don't know if you guys know this, I'm not one to verbally back down when challenged. I have no problem giving it back if someone gives it to us. So, but usually that's how that goes down is someone starts it and I roll with it. Yeah, everything though, not to pat ourselves on the back too hard, but I think everything did go really smoothly. So that's really a testament to the Idlewild crew and everything that they did to prep the event the way they did.
And it was funny because originally, the first thing you had said was, well, what do we have for filler? And then we thought, well, I literally looked at my list of stuff, saw a very long asset. I didn't know what it was. I put it up. It was an interview from last year at Vibram of Matt Krieger from UDisc. And then suddenly I was like, oh, this is kind of mediocre. I pulled up the podcast, which happened to be Matt Krieger from UDisc from this past last week, Tuesday. And so Matt was on the board and he's like, why do you just keep showing videos of me?
Because you're a superstar, Matt.
He's a superstar. And actually, I was just trying to figure out how to, I need to take, the way I have all the women set up is different. Each hole is a separate thing. So I had to find a time to combine them, create a new list, import it. So Matt was just my time filler. But he was not extremely enthusiastic about being the time filler. So
hey, when you're a stud, sometimes you get called on.
Matt Kruger, like Freddy Krueger, which is funny because Freddy Krueger, it's one of my favorite. I think Nightmare on Elm Street is probably my favorite horror movie of all time.
Okay,
it's a good one. Matt Kruger. All right.
Either way. If you've got anything to ask us, anything you guys want us to review, go over, talk about, go ahead and make sure you submit it during the live chat here on the right side, what's up my right side at least, of the YouTube chat board. Please do so. I guess it's not really under the housekeeping umbrella, but Jomez Productions were, of course, at Idlewild this weekend. I believe all of their footage is out and ready to go. There was a smattering or a little bit of a Central Coast crew. I don't think it was all that deep, but there was a Central Coast crew out at Michigan at the Pro Masters World. So you're going to see some footage from that as well. I know they recorded a whole bunch of stuff. There's just not enough hours in the day to turn it all around instantly. Because I think they were even recording 2 rounds a day at one point. So look for that to get released very soon as well. And that should be all available. I'll say it again. Your commentary during the Masters doubles round was extremely entertaining. Thank you. I'm
going to have to listen to it now.
I was going to say, I'll say, I felt it was relatively subdued. I didn't want to, I didn't want to go too offensive or too crazy or get... Yeah, I felt like it was relatively factual. Really, a few times I just kind of talked about either the pars and or the distances that seemed a little off because I went off their scorecards and their tee signs, so there was nothing else other than a feeling and or a conversation. There's a hole that Johnny Mcrae outdrives, and I think it was listed on the tee sign as like 600 feet, and he's like, I didn't throw that 600 feet in the air. And when we, kind of came to it, I think we kind of roughly agreed on 500 feet. And so I made the executive decision to change that. And then the very next hole was marked at 200, and everyone agreed it was much closer to 300. So I made it 300 on that particular scorecard. So I kind of explained that a couple different times. There was some really solid putting. Spoiler, Johnny and Felberg, played incredibly well. And well, thank you. I appreciate it. I was more happy about the system, getting it set up and realizing just how easy. So if I want to do commentary, whether it's myself or some of our top pros, I think I have a system down that will be really easy for doing that moving forward.
Two mics, if you have a guess?
No, just one mic. And
you need 2 mics.
I think it sounds and could work pretty well. I've also got an option for 2 mics.
Good.
So
use 2 mics.
2 mics,
one commentary. Yes, that's what it is. 2 mics, one commentary. That's it. There's nothing else to be
there,
brought from that.
There's no, okay.
There's nothing like that.
All right. Well, thank you again. I appreciate your response, and I maybe I'll get back to more because I got it down, the system down. I'll probably get back to doing them a little bit more. Do you think that's the next question? Is that the answer? Is to release 2 versions all the time?
Maybe not all the time. I'll say this. I think there's very few people that would prefer a non-commentary version over a commentary version.
Okay.
I think.
Which is a shift from 3 to 5 years ago.
3 to 5 years ago. I think we've seen a new standard set with the I'm not going to do it. The combination of pro players where everyone mashes their name together.
Yeah.
But I think that having, I don't know, giving the option is fine. I just don't see there being a big market for it. But I don't know. I could be completely wrong because I'm thinking about me. So
well, I guess I do feel like that answers anyone that says, "Oh, I don't want to hear you, but I still want to hear the chains." Well, that's how I arrived at that solution. So we'll see how that goes.
Couple things. Any dark horse picks for this weekend? Someone said less than 1020 rated. I don't have the
list. Actually, that's funny because I was earlier just looking at the list for this weekend.
Sounds like someone needs to make their picks. And they only got about 1020 left in their
event,
their thing. So I'm gonna bring up the Pittsburgh event list here, and I'll kind of generally give an idea. It's a wooded course, so take that into account. If you're looking at players under 1020 that I think will probably perform well. I mean, Uli is 1020. Dustin Keegan's been playing pretty well. I have a hard time picking Drew Gibson in a heavily wooded course, although he did play decently this weekend. I think Austin Turner is a little young. He doesn't have a lot of experience there. I personally wouldn't put him on there. Zach Melton, he's been okay lately, but I don't know. I don't know if it's a righty-lefty course. I don't recall that much. If that's going to make any difference. Cam Todd, I think, is always a pretty solid pick to play decent at these type of courses. He's an experienced player, so those are probably the ones I would go with. I would probably stick with Keegan. I mean, he's the highest rated under 1020, but in general, there's a reason for that. He's used to playing out at Milo, which is off and on wooded. I think that he can probably perform pretty well out here.
Okay. Someone says, how about above 1020?
Macbeth.
He's all right.
Yeah, Cam isn't 100%. Someone's saying Cam Todd right now, so.
And yes, I think I saw the post. Andrew is out on the board. Andrew, I may have a follow-up email coming your way. I had a question. I was going to show Johnny V the latest.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
The latest amazing thing you sent me that I was trying to figure out a little bit last night. I think I had a clarification, but I'm going to be sharing that scorecard producer with Johnny V here to show him.
And then someone asked,
"Thank you so much. You are you're amazing. Let me know if I can send you something.
You're awesome, definitely." Someone asked about the Patreon discs. Do we have any update on that?
Just that they have so again. They sent me the list and said, "Here's what's in stock. Here's what you can order." I said, "Okay, cool." I filled it out. I think it was a couple days later I sent it back. "Sorry, we're out of that." So then they sent it back. I think there's been 3 iterations of that. And finally, I swear, the last time I sent it, I said, "Send it to me today. I will fill it out and return it today."
You need that turnaround because the warehouse, they go through that stuff so fast.
So they have the artwork. The artwork's done and approved. And now they have what should be a current list. And I feel bad because I know this has gone on for a couple of weeks. And I realized today, or the other day, send me the list of what's in stock. I will order it literally today. I will fill it out the second I get it and send it back. And so 100, I believe it was 100 discs have been ordered. And I'll just give you the hint. There's 2 different molds. And you won't get to choose. We're going to send you one of the 2 molds.
I think we're...
Aren't we?
Yeah.
They're not.
We're not letting anyone choose. That's a pain in the butt. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, you give us money. You have no say.
Yeah, you have no say. Thank you. But we are. I think we're going to sign them all.
Unless there's a major objection not to.
If someone doesn't like it, they can scrub it off. It just makes it a little bit more personal. It makes more sense. We've had quite a few requests to do it. If you don't want it signed for some reason, reach out to us, please. Otherwise, we'll just quick throw a signature on there, and we'll zip it, ship it, flip it. Not necessarily in that order.
Something like that. Can I buy the both from you?
No. I'm sorry, Corey. These I want to set a
Oh, are you suggesting you want to get another one?
Oh, if you're
a Patreon member.
If you're a Patreon member and you want the other mold, we'll see what we have left.
Yeah.
And again, it's kind of, we're 3/4 of the way through the year. These are for patrons, so we're going to kind of take a general look at what your patronage has been. Obviously, we're not letting someone, hey, I'm a $1 sponsor, and then suddenly I'm a $3 sponsor for these 2 weeks, and then dip off. We're kind of making a general call, but it's been pretty cut and dry. Everyone has been fantastic, to be honest. So we're looking at that, and we'll see what we have at the end of the year. Maybe we'll let only patrons purchase extra ones, because I don't want these going out to people who are not patrons.
Yeah.
Just because that's what this is for. This is kind of an exclusive thing for people who are supporting us and through patreon.com. And I know we do get a lot of sponsorship through some other methods via YouTube chat and things like that, and we do appreciate every bit of that. But other than maybe Tired for Crap, that guy keeps giving me money. That's my no. Patreon.com is that's what this was kind of exclusive for. So I'm sorry if that doesn't make you the happiest, but
well, there's other ways. If you really want something in particular that's of us, whether it's the T-shirts that I have or some other items,
sure. You
can reach out to me and I can let you know.
We're happy to sign things and whatever.
That we have, so we appreciate it.
I'm going to sign everything Robert McCall.
Yeah, that's what I would do. That'll fetch more on the market these days. I'd like to see Robert McCall. I'd like to cover. Oh man,
Clothed,
that's a dream come true. I'd like to cover Robert McCall in a round where I'm doing commentary and he's playing, but I'm doing commentary on it. Let's make that happen, Robert.
So you can be inferior multiple ways to him?
Yes. Because
you might as well just go play against him and have him beat you and out-commentate you while he beats you.
That's true. I just, it would be great. I'd like to see him get signed up for an event and then have me commentate while he wins the event.
Someone asked if there is a SmashBox SBTY website like SmashBoxxTV. There's not a store. And the funny thing is, I literally went to SmashBoxxTV just a couple minutes ago just to check something. The website isn't working. It was working yesterday because I'm pretty sure it was working yesterday because I'm on it. So I'm going to have Terry look at that because he takes care of the domain registration for 1&1. So I want to make sure he didn't mess something up.
I did just let, if you want it, I think I just let one of the Smashbox domains expire.
I hope it's not SmashBoxx.tv.
No, it shouldn't be. But I did let one random super weird one with a weird ending expire. I think there's something wrong with 1&1 because
I looked at some of your other websites like Lifetime Disc Sports and that wasn't able to come up. So I don't know if they're having a problem with their servers.
There's definitely some kind of issue going on there. In fact, they just charged me for something today even.
So, but yes, there is a SmashBoxxTV website. And what I would think about, we've talked, Terry and I, offline a little bit about having, there are different websites that let you set up like, hey, here's a sweatshirt with a Smashbox logo on it. If you get X amount of people to order it, we'll spin it up. Or you can do custom ones, one-off, that are a little more expensive even. But we also have a really good relationship with Miles from Paragon. And we kind of, obviously, as we always say, we want to support those who support us. But with Miles, sometimes there's a minimum order. Sometimes there's not. Depends on what we're getting. It doesn't make a lot of financial sense for us to put out, $300 worth of merchandise and then maybe only sell 100 of it. So that's why some of those other websites are kind of nice because you can just put mocks up there and then people will buy them. They'll print them off on demand. So, but we might be able to talk to Miles and see what we can get. Maybe we'll send out a survey and see what people are interested in. Because I was just thinking the other day, I've got a pile of hats and visors over there. Like, I don't have a Smashbox visor.
No, we should make those happen.
Definitely the 90s are calling, and I need a Smashbox visor.
Yeah, good stuff.
Just saying.
Yes, Disc Golf Nerd, you can get a Disc Golf Guy towel. We can make that happen. Yeah, I do have a number of Smashbox discs, a little bit Innova, a little bit of DD stuff, I think I still have. And then we've got a handful of other things. So if you need something, reach out to me privately. And if we don't have it, there's probably going to be an order of some stuff here soon. So,
someone asked if Robert McCall's nickname was Armac. No, it's the worst.
It's kind of, I like it, Armac.
No, if there's the worst set of nicknames, the easiest thing to do is just take your first name or your first initial, first three letters, like A-Rod made that hugely famous. Now we've got A-Rod.
And I couldn't be T-Mill.
T-Mill. I don't like it. I don't think it's a good. It's unless it has a really cool, like A-Rod is a little different. I don't like RMAC.
So you don't like EMAC? Ouch.
EMAC is a little different.
Ouch.
But Robert McCall is MCC.
Ouch.
So it'd be like RMAC. At least EMAC is a name, kind of like. I don't love it, but that's like the cheesiest.
And I thought
so easy nickname
EMAC
to come up with.
You, not anymore. Ouch.
I'll give him a big bear hug next time I see him.
I don't think that counts.
The funny thing is I don't mind it, but I never call him EMAC, but and that's fine. I just think it's such a cop out for a nickname. Like give me something cool, something at least unique or different. Even like I've got like a dozen different ones. I've heard something JV to Johnny V to Johnny Van D. I've heard it all, but J-Van, I don't like that. I think it's easy. It's too much of a cop out for a nickname for everybody because you can do that to any person. It's just not unique enough for me. I'd rather call EMAC Truth. I'd rather call him the Truth. Not that that's going to stick because I don't think it's good, but in general, let's come up with something better for Robert. He deserves something better.
But does he?
He deserves something.
Oh, Robert. All right.
Just saying.
I don't have too much more for you guys. If you guys are in the Pennsylvania or the Pittsburgh, specifically Pittsburgh area, I'd love to see you this weekend. If you know of anyone that either maybe wants to go out and help film, get some extra action, or something of that nature, reach out to me. Be glad to talk to you. Again, my plan is to get the FPO lead card, the women, that is. Each of the 3 days, I plan to film them and then put out post-production action sometime during the next day. But if I can get more footage that could be released later, that's kind of where I'm going with it. I'd love to do so. I think there's going to be an opportunity for doing that. So Elevated Green wants to know what's under my undershirt. An old company that I started in disc golf called Skyline Disc Golf Apparel that I got hot and heavy on for a year or two. And then when I quit running events, I also quit kind of pursuing that, although I still like the company. It just isn't really done much of anything.
Is the Floyd Connor?
That's Saturday night.
That's Saturday night.
I saw Sarah Hokum make a post about looking for to watch it somewhere.
I'm going Floyd. I
think.
Like I said, we've talked about this before with a couple of other guests. That I just think in a pure boxing match, Floyd's probably going to win. So
Hokum had posted, Sarah Hokum said something, anybody hosting the fight Saturday night in or around the Pittsburgh area that wants some extra company. Hashtag McGregor versus Mayweather. Hashtag upset the ballerina. Hashtag BW3s will be packed. Hashtag I'll chip in, I promise. So, yeah. So Sarah Hokum's looking for a place to find the fight as well. Here's what I'm going to say.
Okay, say it, Terry.
I've made my first official online bet.
What?
Earlier, back in March, February, March, April, whatever it was, for the Cubs. For the Cubs and the pennant and the World Series or whatever. So I've made officially placed an online bet.
I didn't know this.
Yeah.
You bet that the Cubs were going to repeat?
There was a wager that could be placed on them winning the pennant, and then there's a wager on them winning the World Series.
Okay, the pennant I can...
okay.
Maybe.
So the question is, can I find... I need to go find whatever website that it was. I think it's important. I was reminded of it today, though. But can I find it? And then I want to see what the payout line... And I know almost nothing about even gambling, but I do feel like it would be fun, based on whatever I'm sure the odds are, which I have no idea what they are. The little Google search will tell us, to put $50 or $100 down on McGregor.
Just because the odds,
yes,
you're hoping to...
Just for that roll of the dice. Just sure. If he pulls it off. Okay, so 4-1 is what Luke is saying.
Okay.
So if those are... And so just generically speaking, if I lay down a $100 bet, I would win $400. Is that what somebody that knows way more than me would know?
Yeah, that makes sense.
or roughly, give or take. If I put down 100, will I win 392? Give or take or whatever. Is that what people are telling me? So that's something I may look into. Yeah, let's talk about gambling on the air, but that's something I might look into.
If it's legal, there's nothing wrong with it, Terry.
Yeah, sure. We'll go with that. Michael, 18, says, I have a question for you, Terry Miller. Okay, if you would like to ask it, go for it. I can't make a promise that you'll get a response, but go ahead and ask the question. I'm trying to see what else is on the board here.
Someone asked, USDGC pick. I made an early Josh Anthon USDGC pick. I think he's good for that type of course, and I think he's.
Let me be very clear, cool one, and to everyone out there. I barely know enough to know anything about boxing or UFC. This guy actually, I think he knows even less than I do, and I know very little.
I wouldn't say that.
Oh, wow. Okay, so he knows more than I do, whatever the case may be.
No, I'm not saying I know a lot more. I'm saying I'm about at the same level as you.
Okay, so either way, we don't know much. So I'll be very upfront and
I know more about
all of that.
UFC than I do about boxing. But
oh, yeah. And the one thing to answer, you had said something about the sparring that took place. I happened to come across a Dana White interview where he talked about the gentleman he sparred against, whose name I don't even remember now. And there was just a conversation about being heavily edited and this and that. And it's clearly, there's a big pissing match going on right now. He said, she said, lots of media hype, a lot of BS on both camps. Again, I don't know anything. It appears that Mayweather should have no problem handling McGregor. There is something to be said about wagering on the underdog here. McGregor is clearly a cocky SOB.
Sure.
And very entertaining to some.
They both are.
Quite disrespectful to others. Yeah, exactly. They both are. There's an entertainment value, especially, well, before I place a bet. There's no I have no dog in this fight. I almost couldn't care less. Almost. That's a phrase I know everybody loves. Couldn't care less. I almost couldn't care less. Maybe throwing down $100 will make me care more. Maybe that's why I need it. I'm not sure, but all right. Did I ever see a question officially come in here? Is what
Mayweather's more likely to hit his girlfriend than he is Conor McGregor.
Wow.
He's got a bad history with spouse or with domestic abuse. So
how do you get sponsored was the question. All right. Don't abuse. Well, that doesn't always stop people. Short rundown on how to get sponsored. For the most part, be an all-around great person, be a good ambassador, do things in your local community outside of just performing well. But performing well always helps. Being on top of the podium in the top 3 spots, having 1,000 rating are all good ways, good, quick tips for how. Now, there's various teams that have introduction teams and street teams and ambassador teams. Those can be great. Maybe you're not the best player, but you're really good at organizing disc golf for the local Boy Scout troop, and you got it in the parade, and you've put 6 courses in. That might be a ticket to getting some form of sponsorship as well. But the tried and true recipe of being an all-around good ambassador and promoter of the sport, along with being 1,000 rated and above,
that helps.
Those are your two. Most powerful ingredients, I guess is how I would say that. I hope that answers your question for you. Terry, who would be the best person to replace you on a sick day? That's a great question.
Yeah. So, let's say you have your choice of any person. Suddenly, you come down with some sort of vocal issue. You can't speak that day. Who do you think is the best person to fill in for you for live commentary?
Well, I mean, I feel like there's almost a double. I mean, there has to be a qualifier there, and the qualifier would be someone that has a clue as to what we're doing. And maybe the answer doesn't change much, actually. Robert McCall is the all but obvious choice, in my opinion. And a large in part, besides being incredibly good looking and having the hair of an angel, Robert McCall also knows the flow. He knows how our system works because he's worked with us a number of times. So for him to step in the Smashbox, but for him to get on the phone call, to interact with Johnny, to interact with our cameramen, and to kind of know the flow of what we're doing. Robert's the next. He's by far the best replacement in that situation. In terms of just if I could pick anyone and maybe workflow wasn't the concern, I don't know if there's anyone more beautiful than Robert McCall still. I mean,
let's take Robert out of the equation.
No, he'll never be out of my life.
He'll never be out of our hearts, but out of the equation. I'm trying to think.
Fine.
I want to know who
second up to run mic and commentary for the day, Ricky Wysocki. He'd be an entertaining choice. I would. It would be great to have him perform the questions, because usually sometimes I have to come at him with questions. What if he had to come with these players with questions?
It'd be different. I'm just trying to think. You guys out there, I'd be curious to know who you think of the touring pros would be a good fill-in for Terry. I mean, we've seen Dana do it. Mm-hmm. Germ has swung in at times. I think Yuli has stepped in and chatted. Paige Pierce, Madison Walker. They've all stepped in at times to help out, or for a couple holes, or even for a round. Who do you think out there, maybe that we haven't seen, would be good? I know a lot of people are probably going to say Sexton.
Sure.
He's good. I think he would be good as well.
Here's the question.
I mean, he's good at the condensed stuff. Could he be good at the long-term live? Filling an hour's worth of time is way different than filling 4 hours worth of airtime. 4 hours of condensed.
Where you're also on the spot, no big deal. But you also there's a certain level, to some degree, of professionalism or seriousness. And I'm not saying Sexton doesn't have professionalism or seriousness, but I think what we've seen, and one reason why it's so easy to fall in love with some of these post-production commentators, is because you can be pretty free and loose. You can kind of say and do whatever you want. Mm-hmm. They've been granted that, whether it's through their play or their name or whatever. And not that I have a lot of verbal shackles on me either. I've clearly said some pretty questionable things throughout the years, and I'll continue to. But at the end of the day, I do have sponsors, certain sponsors, and certain people that maybe write checks that I can't just say and do whatever I want.
Correct.
Entirely.
Correct.
And so what I mean by that is there's an additional challenge there sometimes. And what I'm thinking and what I'm feeling and what I'm saying don't always line up as one can imagine. When I see certain shots or certain breaks or whatever the case might be, yeah, it would be kind of tough.
As you know, we've said it before. Doss is, I think he would be phenomenal when he finally does decide to step away from the discs. If he wants a job behind a mic or something like that, we're obviously willing to help him out for nothing, because that's what we pay. But I think Doss would be a very good one. He's very knowledgeable. He's very well spoken. He knows sports in general. He can kind of take a cue from players. He's very professional. We'll put it that way.
Yeah, and you want someone. In fact, I had a conversation with Steve Dodge today. I said, Steve, if you think I'm a better fit doing something else within our crew, I'm open to hear suggestions. And he said, "Oh, I thought you were going to try and replace me." And I said, "No, I love having you, and you have your style, and I love interacting with Steve during a round." And he had said, he's like, "I like what you know about the players, and you've been around, and you have this information about the players that not a lot of other people do." And what I thought was, when I was really addressing him, was, would it be better to have, assuming we got the flow down, would it be better to have just a different perspective to try that out? And I don't know if that day will ever come, or how much it will come to fruition, or if that's just a co-commentator with me, or however we arrive at that. But it was something that it's funny, I just brought it up with Steve Dodge just today, actually, on the phone. Because I've learned I'm not the end-all be-all for every single viewer out there either. And there's plenty of people that would love to see and hear from some other players. Problem is, a lot of our other top-notch players are doing just that. They're playing.
And that's what Brad said. Brad's like, there's, most top players aren't going to be able to finish their round and swing through for the lead card because they're already playing. And I'm just saying, in a grand make-believe scenario, who can you pull out of
someone's broken their right arm, And who would that be?
We get to break someone's right arm. Who are we going to pick?
And Seth brings up a great point as to something Steve and I just talked about and we want to improve on. And he says, I wish we had someone who would talk more about the course and how the pros are playing it. I think I can do that. I think that's just a mental
shift
of what I need to focus on. I know what they're trying to accomplish. I know if they can or can't do it. I know where they're trying to reach, where the zones are, what kind of slope they should worry about. I don't convey those things because that's not mentally where I've started, I guess, commentating. And I think that's why some people can really dial into, I'll say an Avery or a Big Germ or whomever, because they're talking about those things because they played the course. So those were all the things they were thinking. It's not that I'm not smart enough to think of those things. I just haven't been conscious enough to convey and relay those things. And so I'm not above that suggestion or criticism at all. I'd love to do more of that.
As much as I love our workflow, we seem to have a pretty good timing from the time someone puts out till they tee, which is about 1 minute, maybe a minute and 15 seconds. I do wish there was a little bit more time, and a lot of people have screamed like, oh, we're missing out on the whole previews, the drone shots. I don't like the drone shots nearly as much as I liked it when we walked around with a player and talked about each hole. Like when you here's Eric McCabe, here's the truth. And he's going to tell you how to he's going to tell you what he's going to throw on this shot and how he's going to throw it. Or even if he doesn't tell you what he throws, like, this is, I'm going to be aiming for this position just so I can pitch up. Having the players talk about how they were going to attack 18 this past weekend would have been great because some of them went for a big distance off the drive. Then you saw Macbeth, who didn't throw, still threw far, but didn't try to get his most distance on the first drive and went for everything on the second drive. And having a player talk about that each hole was one of my favorite things, and we've just gone away from it, for time, because we only have about a minute, and then we're playing the FPO stuff, and playing a whole preview after they've all thrown their drive doesn't make a lot of sense sometimes. So it's a little different, but I really liked the way we used to do that with our players.
Well, certainly noted. Again, just per conversation today and moving forward. And I feel like although I haven't competed in a Vibram Open, I think I've been at the last 7. I feel like I know that course just about as well as anyone else out there.
I think you do, yeah.
I will try to make a more conscious effort of telling you guys, I'll talk about positioning in a little bit, and I'll sometimes talk about a straddle and low-hanging branches and those things. Or the obvious OBs and waters that might come into play. But I want to help set up the hole and the strategy a little better. And that's just something I'm going to work on. So if I'm not doing it, send me a message on Facebook and say, hey, describe the hole more. And I'll take it, honestly. During a broadcast, I'll gladly take that feedback because I'll see it probably pop up. Don't send me naughty pictures, though. Yeah, don't. However, on a quick side note, and this could be after show, but one thing I want to look into is some other form, because as I was also explaining to Steve, I take my phone, I'm connected to a conference call with our 2 cameramen, along with Johnny V, the entire 3 or 4 hours. And I know this is silly, I only have one good ear to begin with, so I have to listen to what Steve Dodge is telling me, and I have to listen to the play, and then I also have to listen to what's going on that call for that entire round. What I need to do, though, is find a better way. I have that wired with just a regular set of earbuds, which is then usually muted, so you're not hearing everything twice. I need some other mechanism, whether it's a Bluetooth setup, something else, so I'm not adjusting and holding onto a mic wire and holding onto a phone that's getting all tangled up, and then sometimes putting the microphone in front of Steve.
That was not a big complaint. I did hear 1 or 2 people complain that during the round, when Steve whispered, it was hard to hear him because maybe you guys were closer to the players. So, but then you guys would walk away and start speaking at a normal voice, and it was almost too loud. And Steve had asked, he's like, well, is there a way to he asked me offline, is there a way to normalize that or try to boost? It's like, I can put a limiter on things so they never get too loud.
But you can't
But
necessarily.
but if you're whispering, the system doesn't know to push it.
Correct.
It can, there's no ceiling, but there's no floor, but there's definitely a ceiling I can put. So it makes it really tough. And I think that's going to come with a little more experience. It's going to come with maybe getting someone their own mic and that's tough because I know right now you're
sharing a mic.
Sharing a mic and doing this. So.
Oh, and I share a mic because I told Steve this weekend. I said, just so you know, if I pull the mic away from your face, it's not because I want you to shut up. It's because you just shouldn't be talking at that moment. Like I'm not egregiously pulling it away to be a jerk. I'm pulling it away because we should be quiet or there's something else going on. And Steve actually did follow it up today and said, well, could we just wear lapel mics? And I said, no, we can't. Because then you're going to hear every single breath I take. Because we're going to be walking and talking. And right now, the microphone that I'm using is catching all of the footwork on the T-pad. It's catching the chains being hit by the disc, and I'm pointing a microphone at those sounds. And if we're just wearing lapel mics, all you're going to hear, and then Steve could never whisper something to me and say, hey, your hair's out of place. Like there could be no whispering or communication that we don't want you guys to hear at home. So this is a long-winded way of just saying, we're working on the technologies and the strategies.
We're trying to find the best way.
Yeah, to find that. And it's all kind of behind-the-scenes stuff, I realize. But those are some of the challenges. And you're talking about one or two people on the field going this route. It makes for a really interesting situation. So, Cool One says, could you use 2 mics and 1 input? We actually have that. We have that capability. Mm-hmm. There's pros and cons to utilizing it. And another kind of oddity this weekend, and I was explaining this to Johnny, was on Thursday, we used 1 microphone.
Oh, sure.
Setup, all fully charged. Got us through the 5-hour round. That was with a 1-hour delay. It ultimately got us through a 5-hour round. Saturday, sub 4 hours. No problem. Same microphone, same full charged batteries, receiver, transmitter. Sunday, hole 17, the mic goes out.
I know, because everyone stopped hearing you, and I'm like, Terry, no one
The mic just goes out.
It's just
fully charged, exact same batteries that are all relatively new. Mic goes out on hole 17, the shortest transmission of the weekend. And thankfully, I had the spare battery. I had the spare battery in my pocket. Within a minute or two, once we realized it was out, I was able to switch it as we walked down a fairway. And those are the things that we adjust for. But how bizarre is really the takeaway there. And
a lot of people are, I've even thought it like, well, maybe you should just always switch it at like hole 15. Yeah, you could, or sometimes we don't think about it. Or if it's going to be a short round, maybe you do that if it's a long round. We maybe could. But whenever you mess around with that stuff, you always run the risk of screwing something else up.
Correct.
So it's not the fun thing is it's not the worst thing in the world if suddenly Terry loses his audio, because we always have usually a little bit of background audio then we can throw in there from a camera or something like that, as long as Terry knows.
Yeah, it's just always kind of the fun little things you learn, and sometimes things go super smooth and perfectly, and sometimes they don't, and even when they sometimes Johnny V's really good at covering up mistakes that are being made.
Sometimes I'm the one making the mistakes.
And sometimes he's making the mistakes, and those frustrate me even more because we do everything we can, and if Johnny V screws it up, well, he screws it up. So that's how it all goes. Satellites aren't going to help us. Just to put that one to rest.
Did you like the double Mando shot with the big V tree?
I'll say, it was fine because that's your preferred route anyway.
Yeah.
Is it really punishing in case you missed your line? Maybe a little too punishing.
Okay.
Here's the thing. If you're throwing a good shot, you're hitting that line anyway. That's the preferred best shot regardless. Now, could one say it was unnecessary? Yes, you could. It was forcing you to hit a line when you're already kind of taking that shape of the fairway. And if you're missing that, you're, like I said, you're probably not having the best shot anyway. I feel like it was unnecessary, but would it be a deal breaker for me? No. That's how I look at that. Elevated Green says, whose hair? Johnny V or Terry. Something about it
would grow back faster. Us or McCall would grow back the fastest.
Oh, I'd put myself in on that.
I think so too. Terry,
my hair grows like a weed. It goes so thick and so heavy. It grows very quickly, and I've been very, in some cases, then blessed.
Yeah.
If some people want to think of it that way, I do. I've been very blessed. My hair grows very, very quickly, and it's always been very, very thick. So. I don't care what McCall's does. I would put mine against his in terms of growth any day.
Is there anything preventing a basket wrap at each event, not the top band, but the cage itself? Some people don't like the tubes, so maybe just like wrapping the actual basket itself. That's an interesting way to go about it. If you didn't want to elevate the basket and you wanted to still some sponsorship around that particular basket, that's a really good idea, and I think that could be with the right, depending on how it would be done, some sort of form-fitting something or other, but
I think people would complain that they don't like the aesthetics of it, even if it was done really well.
If it was done well, it would be I think it would be better than the tube.
I think they'd still complain, but you technically could, and a lot of people may or may not realize this. When Innova created that band on the top, that was really their intention of that was for sponsorship recognition. If Johnny V's Pizzeria wanted to sponsor Hole 17 at a course, they really had that idea of that initial band as being a sponsorship opportunity. Unfortunately, it really became just really the breeding grounds for morons to go right on it when they got an ace and to deface it and everything else. But the original intention of that band was that they could be color-coded and customized in whatever colors you wanted, but also whether it was a wrap that you did on your own or that Innova would do was to have that wrapped. Unfortunately, I think it's been very underutilized throughout the years, and I think it should be done more personally.
I'm personally, as I've said in the past, I'm not a big fan of raised baskets, of elevated baskets for no reason. It's never been a big fan of mine. And with a Pro Tour, there's a different noise that we're not used to hearing when you hit the basket, when you hit the chains, when you hit anything and they're in that tube. It just it sounds different.
It does. The catchability is the exact same. The basket's the same.
Of course, everything's the same. And I think the raised baskets aren't that bad as far as height, how they're raised. I don't think it's obnoxious like I think some courses can do and with raised baskets. But you could look at maybe some sort of tube underneath of it without raising it. You could look at some sort of box or a square underneath of it without raising it. I just worry about a square because then you have corners that your disc could hit and get up and roll as opposed to a tube where you're more than likely going to ricochet. But that's a horse apiece. You could definitely look at the basket itself as advertising, whether find a way to wrap the outside of that in something that won't break or rip or tear or not necessarily distract, but I guess it would be a distraction because you're looking at that if you're putting. There are definitely other options, but if you have an idea, reach out to the Pro Tour, and I'm sure they're willing to listen.
One thing that the World Tour has done, they have that space on the pole just below the basket.
Yes,
and I don't know if it's an exclusive sponsor or not, but I've seen those done, and that can be done as well. Yeah. You could argue if that does or doesn't have the same amount of visibility. Of course, it's a little bit lower. A little
less.
But and it's a little obstructed by the view of the actual basket itself, but that's a way that could be done as well. So another way to look at it. Wes says for advertising, the way they line the OB down the edge of the fairway look nice. I totally agree.
I do. I like that. I think
it's very professional looking.
Yep.
I think it helps with the course. I think it helps for the vision and the sight lines, but it also then serves the dual purpose of having a very professional image and having a sponsor recognized in that given spot. Like all of those, I totally agree. I think they've hit it on the head with that one. And the Disc Golf Nerd has again said, I think they should keep track of who hits the tube off the tee the most times during the tour, and he's emailed Steve about it and give him some kind of prize.
Yeah, on hole, was it 11 or 12, the ace run this past weekend?
11. Yep.
11. if you watch the video of Paul hitting the tube, he hits the tube right at the basket. Like there's a picture of the basket, like he aced the picture.
Yeah,
and it was kind of funny because I looked at that and I was like, that doesn't count, buddy. You still got the 2, but
neon and LCDs displays embedded in the band because we need logos on everything.
Yeah,
that would be interesting. If you could get, obviously, it'd have to be some form of, and it probably wouldn't be that tough to make it essentially shatterproof on the top, and then to have the bands, some kind of digital display in there. That would be awesome.
Too distracting.
Yeah, I guess the question is, what would you put on there? Because I think it'd be cool if you had on there putting. It says Macbeth and then putting for birdie.
So he has to read it as he's putting,
and then he misses,
and have it change right there on the fly.
And it says #ouch, and then it says Macbeth putting for par, or #try again. I don't know.
That'd be great. Yeah, we'll run that by. No, I think that would be too distracting. Any sort of display like that.
Zach, there never needs to be another one. Zach Brennan on the board says we need a major event for glow rounds. He set it up. I did not bring up the fact that I'm the 2008 Glow World Champion from the PDGA Worlds that took place in Kalamazoo, Michigan. 2008 Glow World Champion.
There have been other.
There was in 2007. I don't know what other official Glow rounds have taken place since then. I know at Worlds there was
fairly certain.
At Worlds, there was some kind of night
maybe
eyes.
Maybe it was a
action.
night eyes thing and not an officially sponsored by.
So, I mean, if you guys want to live in yesteryear.
Terry is the reigning Glow World Champion still, apparently.
Champion.
So please, somebody else run one so he'll shut up.
So I can attend it and win it.
You're not going to.
No, I won't these days. I definitely will not. All right, Michael, he says you have one more question. One more question. You get one more free one. And then after that, you have to become a super chatter. Just kidding. But no, go ahead and ask your question. We'd love to hear it. Glow, yes, Champ Glow. God, I'm not a god. Just a Champ Glow, World Glow Champion, 2008.
Show me your trophy.
It's gorgeous. It was actually painted with glow paint as a little basket. I remember sharing a moment with Valerie Jenkins, who won Worlds or something that year. But we were comparing trophies that were given out. Mine's not as nice as hers.
No.
It shouldn't have been. Somebody did mock up an Ontario rock, a Glow Ontario rock with a world champion logo on it. Just saying.
This is what I deal with all the
I
time.
know. All right. Yes, flashing the ring. It's really bright. I'm waiting on Michael's question. You sure didn't give Steve Rico your trophy or vice versa? No, his minis. He's got a few mini trophies for sure. I did get Josh Anthon's $6,500 check from the Ledgestone.
The oversized check.
That should be a raffle prize or something. But he gave it to me. So. Oh, it's a cool one. Has a great idea. Super chat, $5 each week. Someone to enter for a grip giveaway in the after show. Yeah, just get about 30. No, not 30. 60 people.
All right, Michael. We're waiting on your.
When will she be Valerie Doss? That's a legitimate question Brad asked.
I think she's legally.
She is legally Valerie Doss. So just to clarify out there, if you check her personal Facebook page, she's listed as Valerie Doss, and she is legally Valerie Doss. However, within the world of golf, and forever how I reference her, for instance, and others too probably, she will forever be known as Valerie Jenkins. And it makes perfect sense for lots of different reasons.
It does make sense, but I think if there was a time for her to go to Valerie Doss, it would have been a great time to when she moved over to Discraft.
Sure.
And I don't know if if it was thought about that way, or if maybe she thought, well, that's kind of cheesy that Nate Doss has been the face of Discraft, and now I'm going to Discraft, and I'm Valerie Doss now.
Yeah.
Or if just because you could make a clear separation, like, oh, these are all the Valerie Doss discs versus the Valerie Jenkins discs.
Yeah.
But I mean, she's also obviously, the Jenkins family is very tight. It's a very, it's disc golf's first family or whatever they call it. And so I don't know. I mean, I'm sure they've got a great idea. So.
Trevor Hook says, when will he be Paul Croak? I don't know that Paul is taking on Hannah's last name. In fact, I think we've seen Hannah make comments that she will someday be, Hannah Macbeth.
Which doesn't roll off the tongue as well.
Well, take it up with her.
Paul. I'm just saying.
For that matter.
I'm just saying. I mean, Paul Macbeth rolls off the tongue.
Yeah.
Hannah Macbeth? I guess it's not bad.
I'll tell them you approve.
Yeah. No, I guess that's okay.
So the question by Michael was, how did you become a commentator for disc golf? I thought it was how do you? How did I? I grabbed a flip camera in 2010, and I started talking into it. And then I went to the memorial and I interviewed a few people and talked into a flip cam. And then a few months later, I upgraded to another camera, a Canon Vicich, that I kept talking into. And then it was right around then, Disc Golf Planet came into existence. And they knew of, and I'm certainly friends with some of those guys, a lot of those guys, all great guys. And at that point, they had known that I was able to talk to people and I knew the players. And so they asked me to join, and they had a number of people kind of cycle in through doing some commentating type roles. And so I was kind of I eventually became one of the
primary
because
it was Dave Greenwell, Crazy John Brooks, Jim Oates.
Yeah. I mean, when it was all said and done, I feel like we were the three kind of left standing, primary three.
Yeah.
Crazy John, Dave Greenwell, and myself. And there was a number of other people. Do not get me wrong. A bunch of us kind of went in there and did various combinations. I was on with Mace Man at one point. I was on with Jim Oates. I was on with Dave Greenwell for Worlds. So, lots of different people. And then from there, I just kept video blogging, and then was going to start Smashbox to do an audio only coverage podcast, live coverage. So my plan was to go to a tournament, usually a bigger tournament. I would want to go to a tournament, and I was going to simply give you basically a radio play-by-play without any video. Because I said to Johnny and others, like, streaming live video, it's super expensive. We're never doing that. That's crazy. That's absolutely bizarre. And then fast forward 8 months, and we were live streaming. So that changed. Yeah. So like it or not, that's how we. That's how I force my. So start a company where you do it, and that's how you become a commentator.
And Elevated Green nails it. Terry just kept talking.
I just kept talking.
He doesn't shut up.
Never shut up. That's how you become a commentator. Avery versus Val on a course with no distance advantage for Avery, who wins more often.
I said I think Avery still.
Avery. Yeah. I think Avery still.
Yeah.
IMAX on SmashBox 2019. Spends a lot of time on a cell phone playing.
No, IMAX is one of those bad nicknames. IMAX.
Like I said, Terry just kept talking. That's exactly it. All right. I think I'm going to quit talking, believe it or not.
Yeah, we're going to...
I think I might take my girls camping tomorrow night.
What?
Just for a night. They're city kids. I enjoy camping. I'm still a city kid myself, but I enjoy some camping. So we're going to find some random campground and make a one little night of it. Nothing more than a half hour or 45-minute drive to get somewhere probably. I've got a tent and all that stuff already. We just don't do it too often. And love to go out and make a night of it. And then come Thursday, I will be flying out to Pittsburgh, getting in super late. I posted on Sarah Holcomb's wall that if she finds a party to let me know. I think I just invited myself. I said, and if that doesn't work, let's just get it at my hotel room, and or at the hotel.
Not weird and creepy.
And then
I
said,
if you don't find a party, there's one at my hotel room.
I said, maybe we just order it in my hotel room and invite people there. So maybe we go that route instead. Could be fun. All right, guys. Yes, I'm selling the towels. Reach out to me on Facebook is the best way to go. Terry, get to New Glarus State Woods. I don't want to go that far. That's 2 hours for me. Camping is fun.
Michael,
Watch out for the clowns.
Michael asks us, we've been to Michigan before. We've been to Michigan a ton.
Yeah.
Playing golf. Being in Wisconsin here, we were over there a couple times a year for many years.
Some scary camp time stories. Johnny V has there been any advent in apps so that smaller local businesses can buy space on the podcast for local customers?
On podcasts for local customers, like any particular podcast.
Are you talking about to regionalize, like specifically?
Not really.
So that if you're in Emporia, you're going to definitely get a dynamic dis ad. Is that kind of what you're saying if you're listening to it?
I don't know of any like that, particularly because most of the audio feeds come up from a single source, and there's not really a way to do that streaming.
Huh.
But it's a great idea if you come up with something like that. You have to start you'd have to host all the podcasts. They would have to stream, because if you download them, well, I suppose if it finds a way to figure out where you're downloading it from, it would have to insert that audio clip. That's a lot of programming. Talk to the UDIS guys; they're good at that stuff.
Yeah, they're smart like that. Elevated Green says, yes, Kettle Moraine, just north of Milwaukee. That might be, we may just, honestly, I'm going to research it. We may just go over to Menominee Park, which is literally minutes from our house, but is a huge county park, and I know they've had some kind of camping, so maybe we'll just go super easy. Like I said, I don't want to go more than an hour away, because this is not an all-out camping trip. This is go out and spend one night in the wilderness and then come home kind of thing. We're not going to get too crazy. All right, we appreciate you guys tuning in. It's been a long night, 3.5 total hours. We hope that you enjoyed the regular podcast with Dana Vicich along with Paul Ulibarri. By the time you're listening to this, we're probably in the midst of the Pittsburgh Flying Disc Open, so of course we'll be talking about that in a wrap-up show come Tuesday or Wednesday. Strike that, Wednesday. We'll announce it here that our next show will likely be on Wednesday the 30th. Coming to you live from the Vibram. So we may have a few extra guests that step in or join us depending on what time it is, but we might get some additional insight the eve before the Vibram kicks off. And so look for coverage of the women at Pittsburgh and also some live footage taking place once we get out to Worcester for some other good stuff. Dad's drunk. You missed it all, pal. For Johnny V and myself, Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy, that's been our podcast 157 after show. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for your support. It means so much to us as we continue to put out live action on the Disc Golf Pro Tour, with PDGA events, the PDGA National Tour, wherever we travel to. We appreciate your support there. We appreciate you guys tuning in and helping us out here with the podcast. We'll catch you guys next week on Wednesday night, where you can step inside the Smashbox.